and welcome to a very special episode of Palace Confidential. I'm Jo Elvin and I will be talking you through the ups and downs of Meghan Markle's business ventures so far this year, and most importantly, our royal experts' reactions to them. From her Netflix series With Love Meghan to the launch of her raspberry spread, my goodness, this episode will be jam-packed. So sorry. As ever, please remember to like and subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel by clicking the button below. That way you will never miss another episode. For even more royal news, you can now sign up to the free Palace Confidential newsletter by scanning the QR code on your screen now. In it, you'll find exclusive articles from your favourite royal experts, Rebecca English and Richard Eden, as well as polls and pictures from a rarely seen archive. Well, we started 2025 with an Instagram announcement from Montecito that Meghan's new lifestyle show With Love Meghan would be coming to Netflix. Take a look at what our Richard had to say about that, what the palace initially thought about the series, as well as Rebecca's thoughts on the Duchess seemingly using the death of her dog Guy to advertise the show.
This is the long-awaited series. It's called, we've now discovered, With Love Meghan. A trailer appeared just after Meghan rejoined Instagram, which she hadn't been on for years, and we know also she's talked about the dangers and perils of social media. It's something that she and Harry talk a lot about. Well, now she's back on social media and promoting this show, which will come out next week, so we all look forward to watching the 8 episodes.
Excellent. And where can we see this?
It's on Netflix,
of course.
Yes. And it's the cookery and lifestyle show. A very upbeat trailer with a sort of upbeat 60s song, and it shows her, cooking and doing various things with friends. So yes, we look forward to watching it.
Well, I like a recipe show. I can't wait. Natasha, there was a few people pointing out what they perceived as a blunder in the promo video on Instagram.
Yeah, so this is part of Meghan's return to Instagram. Obviously, she was off it for a long time, and she posted a couple of days before this documentary was formally announced, sort of quite a stylised video of her running sort of very casually through the sand, barefooted, which is something we obviously know she likes to do, and kind of, writing 2025 in the sand in a very kind of seemingly spontaneous way. And then
as everything is with the Sussexes.
Yes. And then some very eagle-eyed viewers noticed that actually in the route to her running to do this, there were kind of other sort of drafts of where she tried to do this, and it obviously hadn't worked out very well, and she sort of ran over it. Maybe suggesting that it wasn't the sort of like random, spontaneous, happy act, and maybe something a bit strategic, which is obviously something people think the Sussexes do perhaps quite often. So yeah.
So you guys going to be watching the programme?
We have to.
What you're paid to do.
Yeah.
Of course.
What made me smile about it, I think, was that it was all about, she kept saying about elevating the everyday, and I was thinking this morning as I was making my son's packed lunch, I was like, I might elevate the sandwich. I buttered the bread, I put a slice of cheese in it, put it together. I mean,
the thing about...
What, you're not one of those Instagram mums who makes little smiley faces with the sandwich and a little cartoon character with the cheese?
Sprinkle some edible flowers over it or something like that. Yeah,
the thing about this programme is, obviously Meghan is not a cook, she's not a chef. She's done recipes before on her old blog, The Tig. But essentially, whether this programme's any good or not will depend on whether people enjoy watching her, they enjoy being in her company, whether they like her, essentially. So it will be a really interesting test.
It will be. I'm really looking forward to seeing it, actually. Now, Rebecca, they did pull at the heartstrings, didn't they, with a video about their dog that had everybody talking this week, the Sussexes.
Yeah, little Guy. I mean, look, you are, Richard, big dog lovers. And
what about, do you hate dogs, Natasha?
No, sorry, I
grew up with lots of dogs.
I didn't know whether Natasha had dogs, but I know we've got dogs. And, so I do feel enormous sympathy. It's like, it's a hole in your heart when one of them goes. And Meghan's announced that, sadly, that they've lost Guy. And she's had him since, before she met Harry. She adopted him as a rescue in Canada, so he's kind of been there, through kind of, the good times and the hard times throughout the last few years. And the video montage she put up was quite extraordinary. It was quite a personal video montage. It even featured Archie and Lilibet in it. Not their faces from the back of them, but you could hear their little voices singing songs about Guy and talking about him. So, I do feel sorry for them. And I know Harry was very fond of Guy. I mean, I completely forgot about this. One time a couple of years ago when I was before Megxit, I remember being in Kensington Palace about to cover a reception that William was at, and I was kind of in their kind of private area in a little waiting room, and suddenly Harry walked through with Guy at his heels. And of course, Guy, being a happy little dog, went to kind of go up to us and go, hello, and you could hear him go, come here, come here, come here. Of course, he didn't want Guy saying...
We don't talk to them.
We didn't want Guy. I didn't want Guy saying hello to us, and he kind of carried on. It was slightly awkward. And the one thing I would say is that the message that kind of accompanied this, so she wrote a kind of written tribute as well, was very gushing. I understand all those sentiments, but it was a lot of talk about how, you know, she wanted to get into the shower in the hope that it would wash away the heaviness of her tears. And it made me kind of think of when William and Catherine lost Lupo, and they did put a message on social media about it, but it was like, you know, it's with a heavy heart we announced we've lost Lupo, who's a big part of our family, you know, the end. And I think people understood that. But maybe that's a kind of a very British way of doing things.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I thought was quite noteworthy was that she used it as a plug for the show, which I'd be honest, made me personally feel a little bit uncomfortable. It said, look, Guy's going to feature quite a lot in our show, and hopefully people will see how much I love him and will feel drawn to him as well. I'm just not sure that was a wise thing to do.
But I think that it was clearly going to be awkward, because if the programme starts next week and the dog features in the programme, but he's actually dead, I think she felt she had to tell people before what had happened.
Maybe, or you could add, you know, at the end.
Did you just defend Meghan? Did I just hear that?
Well, you could add just at the end of the show, in loving memory of Guy or something. You kind of often see things like that. I don't know. Just maybe.
It's a choice,
it's
as they say in Hollywood. But now, Richard, your newsletter this week had some surprising insight from a palace insider about Meghan's show.
Yeah, I've been desperate to know what did, because, you know, we all had our own views about this trailer and the Instagram, and I was desperate to find out what's the word at the palace, what are people saying about it there. But I was actually quite surprised when I found out, because essentially they wish Meghan well, they hope it's a success, and that's not because they're going to be sitting around eagerly watching her cookery programme, but if it's a success, it means that Harry and Meghan don't have to go back to exploiting those royal connections again. I mean, remember when they got the huge deal from Netflix, you know, what was the big lure for Netflix? It was that they were going to be telling their story, which they did with their series. You know, this other stuff is kind of additional to that.
But surely even the Sussexes know now that they've flogged that horse with sort of like going back and telling the tales of woe about what a dreadful life royal existence is.
No, I mean, do not underestimate the importance of this programme, because their Netflix deal ends this year. And if it's not a proper hit, you know, Netflix will be reluctant to renew that very expensive deal. And then they only would if they were offering something juicy, like we're going to be doing another reality show, we're going to be, you know, talking about this, that and the other. So, you know, a relatively innocuous cookery show very much suits the royal family.
So wanting it to be a success is not because suddenly everyone's cheerleading for Meghan over at Buckingham Palace, is that right?
No, I don't think they'll be gathering around with the popcorn for a sort of joint viewing of With Love, Meghan.
Oh, you never know. But things didn't go to plan for Meghan, as she was forced to delay the series due to an extreme weather event in LA. Here, Charlotte Griffiths, the Mail on Sunday's editor-at-large, explains why the series was postponed, while Richard, as always, had a slightly more pessimistic view, arguing that Meghan's decision laid bare the contempt she has for the royal family. Ouch.
Well, we were all expecting Meghan's Netflix cookery show, and it's been highly, highly anticipated. And of course, she released the advert via her Instagram. And then the wildfires very sadly spread through LA. Yeah. And she issued a statement via Netflix saying she's postponing it. And that's what's happening. But of course, as always with Meghan Markle, there has now been a backlash. You know, I have to say, she's a bit damned if she does and damned if she doesn't. Some people are saying, is she courting more publicity? Because of course now we're talking about the show again. Some people are saying, you know, who cares? There are much bigger issues in your cookery show. It seems like a sensible decision from Netflix, and apparently it is them that make the final decision rather than Meghan, because of course the show is all set in LA in these perfect kitchens and the perfect garden. It would have been very, very jarring to see that in the wake of the fact that so many people have lost their homes and they're just rubble now.
I mean, Richard, what do you think? I know you've written about this for Mail Plus this week. What have you said?
I mean, I think Meghan's decision to postpone this programme really does lay bare her contempt for the royal family. And I'll tell you why, because, she said apparently People magazine had her saying that she didn't think twice about cancelling this programme after the terrible wildfires. Well, you might remember, and as lots of people have pointed out to me since that was announced, that Meghan certainly, she may have thought twice, but she went ahead with the Oprah Winfrey interview when Prince Philip was seriously ill. He was in hospital, and then decided to go ahead with the programme. Obviously caused heartache for everyone in the royal family, and Prince Philip died 4 weeks later. And we know they went ahead with everything else, like the Netflix series when the Queen was in failing health. Harry announced his memoirs as well when it was obvious that Queen Elizabeth was increasingly frail. So I'm sorry, people have been quite cynical about this, sudden compassion.
And it's not the only time, is it, though, that their plans have been thwarted by major events?
No, I mean, there does seem to be something of a sort of curse of Meghan, because let's be honest, when they moved to LA, they were hoping that would be, or when they moved to North America, it would be the start of their career. And then what happened? You had lockdowns and the pandemic, and it ended up that they couldn't launch that show business career that they wanted to for some years, and it really put them back. So again, it's a very unfortunate timing. And I have to say as well, I mean, think what Meghan's done. She's just delayed this programme by a couple of months. But what really will be different in March? I mean, you're going to have vast areas of LA with people still homeless. Really, will there be a sort of appetite for this, luxury programme, showing off your fancy kitchen to your friends? I don't know. And
is it true? What's going to happen with the podcast as well that was supposed to come in the wake of the cookery show?
Well, that was interesting, because I remember being given the story before that the podcast, so she announced, so let's rewind a bit. So they had a very lucrative deal with the audio giant Spotify. And that ended, I have to say, rather acrimoniously. You might remember one of the executives calling them something very rude and calling them grifters.
And his invitation to appear on Palace Confidential is still very much open.
Yeah. So anyway, Meghan was clearly keen to announce a replacement for that deal. So after some months, she did announce, with great fanfare, a new deal. I think it was Lemonado was the company. It was a very small podcast company. But then what I was told was it wouldn't be released until the podcast wouldn't start until after her series for Netflix.
Right.
So now that's even later, although, we don't know, for all we know, they might choose to bring that forward, but I very much doubt it. I think everything's on hold.
I'm loving this history lesson because I'd forgotten so much of this, but what's the content of that podcast going to be, do you know?
She hasn't said, but right. I think she wanted to continue with a theme of archetypes where, it was feminist issues, and it was very much her podcast rather than the one that perhaps Spotify had expected with her and Harry.
Really can't wait. Now, on a serious note, though, we know that we have a lot of viewers in California, and we really do send our heartfelt best to all of those affected by the fires. I don't know about you, I've got friends there who's like coping with just unbelievable scenes, so we're really sending love to you all. While we were all patiently waiting for the Netflix series, Meghan announced that she would finally be launching her range of jams. Watch as Charlotte takes us through the launch of Meghan's merchandise, while Richard says it might be a last-ditch attempt to save her brand, as well as the couple's Netflix deal.
Meghan is about to finally launch her jams and her products via these new Netflix shops that are opening in kind of malls in America. It doesn't sound like, it's not exactly Fortnum & Mason's, it doesn't sound like the most high-end malls, but
no.
But Netflix is opening a couple of shops that will sell all the merch, so Bridgerton merch, Stranger Things merch, and of course Meghan's show on Netflix is going to be all about her tablescaping and her jams and her cookery. So there will be Meghan merch up for sale, and it's quite good timing given that we've had pictures of her snogging Prince Harry on every newspaper in the planet.
That was very fortunate. Do you think, though, it feels like this kind of venture is really make or break for their Netflix deal, doesn't it?
I think it really does, because essentially it could be their last project with Love Meghan. Their deal with Netflix runs out at some time this year, and if that's going to be renewed, they need a hit. Prince Harry's polo show wasn't a big hit. So they want this one to be, and the fact that it ties in with merchandise as well shows that they really do need a success.
Although Meghan only rejoined Instagram at the start of this year, we soon became far too familiar with her posts promoting her Netflix show and brand As Ever. Watch Rebecca react to one of those videos before taking us through the challenges Meghan had to tackle, originating from a small Spanish town and a company already called As Ever.
It's recording.
Okay. Cat's out of the bag. I'm shocked we've kept this a secret for so long. In 2 weeks, my show is coming out, which I'm so excited for. And also my business, which I think there's been a lot of curiosity about.
Oh, everyone's been talking about this week. Rebecca, what can you tell us, and what did you make of the performance in the video?
God, where to start?
Is it wrong of me to call it a performance? But it does seem a bit like, the laugh in just the right place.
Yeah, I mean, look, personally, I'm not one to oppose her making money. She's no longer a member of the working royal family, so she can. Whether this will make her fortune, only time will tell. Not something I would personally buy into, but I'm sure there are people who would. But like all things about Meghan, about the Duchess of Sussex, is they're really divisive. So what some people see as kind of her being cool and kooky, other people are saying is totally insufferable and really contrived. And I think that's the trouble is you pick your lane with her about what you want to be in. There were some things I think really struck quite a strange note, particularly for me, the inclusion of Harry at the beginning. You don't actually see him, but you can hear his voice telling his wife, who's obviously recording a video, that she's recording. Now, I thought that was quite clunky, and I think personally that was a way to remind people of her royal links without actually having to force her husband to kind of get grubby and sell things.
Stand there with a pot of jam.
I mean, which he, and I know from people I've spoken to that that's something he's never really wanted to do. It's just doesn't float his boat. And I thought things like that were clunky. And also, what I don't understand is the kind of slight one-upmanship of it in saying, I can't believe we've kept this a secret from you so long. Why not just say, I've got this great business proposal, I'm really excited about it, I hope you're excited about it too. And making the slightly diggy point that, she hasn't been able to do that in recent years, which people have taken to be a slightly kind of veiled criticism of the royal family. I just don't see why she needs to go down that road if so.
And do we know anything as yet about, there's going to be this merchandise, isn't there, apparently. Do we know what she is going to be selling?
Well, she says jam. Is her jam?
Oh. Is jam your jam, Rebecca?
My jam is whatever cheap stuff I buy at the supermarket.
You're more Lady Marmalade, aren't you? Yeah.
I have never made jam in my life. My mum makes very good marmalade. But no. It's going to be jam, homeware, dog treats. I mean, the world is a oyster. They've trying to trademark quite a lot of things.
Okay.
It's whether people want to buy into that lifestyle. And actually, I don't feel like we know much about her lifestyle because they're so private.
That's the point I was going to make, because even this new show with Love Meghan, it's not in her home, is it? It's in her home hired to be the set for...
Exactly. And I think people who have been very successful in that field, who have, they already have an established lifestyle brand that people aspire to. And I'm not sure we know what hers is. So...
Well, as ever, the controversy doesn't end with the introductory video, does it? See what I did there? It's only been a couple of days, but already we've had complaints about her plans from everyone from a Spanish town to a company that is already called As Ever.
Exactly. And she made a point of, I think her spokespeople made a point of saying we've done extensive research on this, but that research doesn't seem to extend to quite a cursory Google search. And if you do, straight away comes up they do bear a very striking resemblance to each other. The motto for this Mallorcan town, and the mayor of the town has said, look, I don't think we are going to be able to take legal action, but we would obviously strongly ask her to think again about this.
So just to clarify, she's designed, I believe she's designed the logo, for As Ever, with 2 hummingbirds that is remarkably similar to the logo of this town.
And a palm tree in between them. And when you put them side by side, they are remarkably similar. And also we have a brand in New York that sells upcycled clothes called As Ever. And the owner has said that he is taking legal advice over this because he doesn't really know where he stands. And obviously he said, this is nothing to do with me and I don't want my brand associated with it. So as you rightly say, nothing ever quite goes that smoothly.
So do you think it would be fair to suggest that quite often these things just seem rushed with Meghan, don't they? And I'm still kind of confused about, we went from American Riviera Orchard, which we can't. That ran into all sorts of copywriting and trademark problems with using that as the merchandising brand. Then we've got the television show coming on Netflix called With Love, Meghan. So why do we now have a third brand name? It all just seems a bit like, Meghan Muddle. It's confusing.
And it's a very fair point, Jo. And it's important to note, actually, on the American Riviera Orchard idea, that she makes a point in this video of saying, I've not canned that because it doesn't work and I've run into issues copywriting it, which is clearly what's happened. She said she felt it was too limiting and that she would only be able to sell products that were associated with that part of California, and that she felt she wanted to bring her brand wider than that, which I'm not sure anyone buys, to be honest. And yes, I mean, this does happen a lot, and former staff I know that worked for her, this is not an unfamiliar story to them, I have to say. They'll often say she has a very definite idea, I want to do this and I want to plough ahead with this, I won't listen to anybody.
Yeah.
Then when it goes wrong, turns on a heel and starts to do something else, but yet blames other people for it. So it's a not unfamiliar story, I don't think.
How do you think that she will be feeling about these criticisms going on at the moment?
Look, she's aware of them, and clearly she's aware of them because, she tried to make a kind of joke of, jam is my jam in the video. And, she's obviously clearly aware of some of the criticism, but also the way that people have taken the mickey out of her for the kind of sending pots of, numbered jam off to friends who've done slightly kind of clunky adverts for them on Instagram and things. So she clearly is aware of this. Otherwise she wouldn't reference it in her video. And I'm sure it's got to rankle. But as people I know, again, that have had dealings with her in the past say that it's never her fault, it's always somebody else's. So
yeah, that's like me. Are you though? I'm always right. Are you? Definitely at home.
I think you'd have to ask my family that.
And finally on March 4th, 8 episodes of With Love, Meghan dropped on Netflix. The show featured Meghan cooking alongside the likes of Mindy Kaling and Abigail Spencer. But Richard and Rebecca were not at all amused.
First impression was, I got up early, I was there watching it at 8 o'clock. And
wow, that is early for you.
I'll be honest, I had quite low expectations, but I do like cookery programmes. I like, sort of Jamie Oliver and things like that. So I was hoping it would be like that. But it was just very, very boring. I mean, look, I admit...
That is not the reaction she will be hoping.
I'm probably not the target market, I would imagine. But, in the first episode, it was her with her good friend, makeup artist, Daniel Martin. And I'm sure he's a wonderful makeup artist, but by golly, he's dull. He really is. And then they were just making different things. It wasn't like a cookery show where here's how you make a nice dish.
That's the thing. I don't think it is a cookery show, is it?
No.
It's a lifestyle show.
Okay, we call it a lifestyle show, right? So in this programme, just take the first episode, they made a pasta dish, which is something could be useful for students. It was basically put a load of tomatoes in a pan and add some spaghetti and then add some hot water.
She's stolen my recipe. She's stolen my secret recipe.
It's very useful for, for children going to university. But then they made candles. And then they also made a sponge cake. So it was just kind of, different things. But I did plough on. I watched it for hours and hours this morning. But I'm afraid it didn't get much better.
Rebecca, you looked, when I greeted you earlier today, like you'd been through some sort of an ordeal after watching it. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I lost the will to live after the episode about making ice cubes, I'll be honest.
How do you make ice cubes?
Yeah.
Pray tell.
But I have to say, I went into it with an open mind, and actually I would say a little bit of a high bar, because I think she was very successful, or moderately successful with the TIG, with her pre-Harry lifestyle website and blog. So I thought, actually, you know, this is something she knows something about. But I'm very much like Richard. I couldn't really work out what she was trying to say. I couldn't really work out who she was trying to appeal to. There was lots of, oh Meghan, aren't you wonderful? Oh my God, it's so amazing. Lots of kind of, you know, joyful faces as they're licking cream off spoons. But it just didn't seem very relatable to me, I have to say.
Here's the thing that is the stumbling block for me. I think my understanding of it going in is that it's a lifestyle show that portrays for her fans and people interested Meghan's lifestyle, how she lives her life. It's not even filmed at her house.
No, and she was making a point actually in one part of it of saying, look, this is not just for people who've got grand estates in California. You could do this in your little flat in London. You could grow edible flowers or vegetables. And
I can't grow fake grass in my London garden.
No.
It's like I just don't have the sunlight that they do in California.
Exactly. But she was saying that at the same time as she was harvesting vegetables and fruit that had been grown for her by somebody else at somebody else's house. So again, it just goes back to this relatability factor, and I just don't see who it was appealing to.
I mean, there's often, you know, in these cookery programmes, they nearly always use a studio or whatever because, you know, you don't want to have vast numbers of crew in your own house. So we understand that.
But if you're selling your lifestyle as a brand, a la Martha Stewart, then you do, a la Delia Smith in the 80s.
Well, what I was going to say is this takes things to a new level because, as you say, like one episode would start with her harvesting, you know, blackberries from the garden and talking about how she likes to do that in the morning. And then everyone knows that's not her house. So then you're thinking, this is a bit phony. It's
weird, isn't it? But what did you make of the use of the children in it, Richard?
Yeah, this is really interesting actually because Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet didn't feature in it in the sense that they didn't appear, but they were constantly referred to because, you know, it was Meghan as a mother talking about how she you know, likes to cook for them, look after them. They were preparing for a children's birthday party at one point. So they kind of loom very large, but also they featured heavily in the promotion of the programme. That she gave an interview to People magazine where she talked about them, and crucially on social media, on Instagram, there was a video of Princess Lilibet with Serena Williams and her children, and that was to promote the programme.
And so do you think that built in an expectation around the children being in the show?
Well, and also it did with me, because Serena Williams, I thought, oh, so she's obviously one of the guests, but she's not in this series. So I wonder if that was a sort of favour to help promote it. But, I mean, there's no two ways about it. She's using the children to promote her programme.
Well, she does talk a lot, doesn't she, Rebecca? She refers to herself as Mama throughout the show.
Yeah, there's a lot of third-person references, I have to say, which for me personally is a bit of a turn-off.
For Rebecca English personally, say that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a turn-off. I mean, I should say that I think there's some good things about it. I mean, I think the cinematography, or however you describe
it looks gorgeous.
Was beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have a Californian mansion and estate and kind of wander around in my sundress waving, you know, bunches of flowers in the air. It's a very beautiful lifestyle, but it's just obviously one I'm clearly never going to be able to afford.
Oh, who knows?
That's blown my illusions about your salary as the royal editor. I thought you were on millions. Richard, one thing I have noticed, there's been a lot of discussion, seems to be a mini stir caused by the Sussex name that's been mentioned in it.
Yes, this was one of the few genuinely interesting bits in the series. Was when, so in the second episode, her guest was Mindy Kaling, the actress, writer, comedian, and she has to be said she doesn't know Meghan very well. She only knows her because she appeared in the Archetype series that Meghan produced for Spotify. And so she comes round and they're chatting, and then she makes a reference to Meghan Markle. And that seemed to go down really badly. Meghan actually kind of sort of stopped her and said, no, it's funny, you keep saying Meghan Markle.
And I thought it was so interesting. It's like, it's this breezy tone, but the voice is a little tighter.
Yeah. I mean, it did seem like, whoa, like a real insight
Yeah.
into a character. But she stopped her dead and said, no, actually, now I'm Meghan Sussex. And, that was, to be honest, that was sort of news to all of us because we didn't realise that they were using these titles. And I think I should explain a bit about it. So their children, for example, Archie and Lilibet, on their birth certificates are Mountbatten Windsor, which is the royal family surname.
Well, this is where the argument's been online today, isn't it? Because some people think that that's their surname.
Yes, so it is.
Yeah.
But since they became the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, the family can also use the Sussex title. So we have that for aristocrats in this country. You might have, let's take, say, the Duke of Marlborough. His family name is Spencer Churchill, but he might call himself Jamie Marlborough. And, you're perfectly entitled to do that. So they've obviously chosen to use the Sussex name in the same way that Harry used to be known as Harry Wales when he was in the armed forces. But it's definitely interesting, and very interesting that she should choose to sort of stop her friend when she was saying that. And you do wonder why. It was quite odd.
Sorry to interrupt, but poor Mindy Kaling looked a little bit kind of chastised. And
Yes.
said, oh, well, now I know, that's wonderful.
What, if anything, can we read into the significance of that? Like, really being emphatic about, I'm a Sussex.
I think a switch was slightly triggered, I have to say, with that comment. As you could see that she didn't like it. And actually in the People interview, she makes a point of also emphasising that she loves to be able to share the same family name as her children. Now, there are some people, myself included, that don't have the same name as their family and children. And there's a little bit of me that feels, I wouldn't say offended, because what she says doesn't really matter to me. But I think some people could. Does it make you a less committed, less loving parent if you don't have the same surname as your partner and child? I don't think it does, but obviously she wanted to make a point of that.
Yeah, well, Richard, also many might be asking if it was so important to you, why did you want to get away from the family that gave you that title?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, we've seen this time and time again, that when Prince Archie was born, they briefed journalists close to them. I remember my old mate Omid Scobie going online to say they've made a point of saying that they're not going to use titles. They don't want titles. But then we learnt later in the Oprah Winfrey interview that had become a big issue, that they were concerned that Archie wasn't going to get a title, and they felt they were being hard done by, and it became a big grievance and reason for upset. So in the same way that they've gone to America, a country that's very egalitarian, it doesn't really respect titles like that traditionally, but they insisted on calling their children Prince and Princess, and insist on using these Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles, even though they're no longer working members of the royal family. So, to me anyway, there's a real contradiction there.
I thought it was interesting what you were saying, that this idea that Meghan and Mindy Kaling actually don't know each other that well. They met, is that true?
That was the only time they've ever met.
Yeah, doing the Archetypes podcast. So what did you make of their interaction on their episode then, Rebecca?
Mindy made the point actually of saying, look, we're kind of email friends. So it suggests that it probably was the only second time that she'd actually met her. And again, there was a lot from Mindy of saying, oh my God, you're so wonderful, Meghan. Like, this is the most, when you sent me that pot of jam, it was the most amazing moment of her life. Yeah. But interestingly, she reveals that she was the one that got number 50. And she kind of says a bit like, I just kind of casually wondered, like, does that put me in a pecking order for basically 50? And Meghan revealed that actually the first one, and actually I think this was quite sweet, went to her mother because she felt that was the right thing to do. And then she said, I just hope that everyone else who got one would feel, blessed that I sent them one and wanted to share it on social media. But I have to say, I think I'm with Mindy. I think if I got number 50, I'd think I was at the end of quite a long list to receive one.
But I'm grateful to Mindy because she's clearly an interesting, funny person, and the episode with her was much more entertaining than the one with the poor makeup artist.
Because she's funny, but
no, he cut his finger. I would say that was the most dramatic incident in the entire 8-episode series, Richard.
Do you think someone from a Netflix producer just threw a knife, hoping it would
just cut your finger? Come on, do
jeopardy.
Something. Yeah.
Did you think, Richard, that these interviews were similar to how she conducted her interviews on her podcast?
They are, in the sense that the point of the Archetypes podcast series was meant to be to hear from the guests. And she had some really interesting guests. You know, you might remember she had her friend Serena Williams, she had Mariah Carey, and you know, we all wanted to hear about these people. But it ended up, actually, we just heard far more about Meghan. And I think that was I personally would have liked to have had more jokes and hear more from Mindy Kaling. But it is the Meghan show that's made crystal clear. And if you like Meghan, you know, hopefully you'll enjoy this programme. And if you don't, I wouldn't advise watching it.
That's a fair enough review, isn't it?
I think it was quite subservient television, wasn't it? It was all about putting her in the best light. And as you rightly say, look, this will probably appeal to an audience somewhere, people who like her particularly, but like lifestyling, programming. I think just for me personally, it felt a bit out of date, you know, and that people are doing this on TikTok and Instagram quicker, sharper, you know, and in a much more relevant way that gets it out there to many more people very quickly.
It's funny you mentioned those social media platforms, because she said in an interview leading up to the series that she didn't want to be seen as an influencer, but this sort of like beautiful looking, you know, curated fruit salads and floral sprinkled donuts, that is the fodder of Instagram influencing.
100%, that's its raison d'etre.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't want to influence people, then what is she trying to do? Because surely, at the end of it, she's trying to influence them to buy her products once they've watched the programme.
Yeah.
So, and actually there's nothing wrong with being an influencer. It almost suggests that that's slightly beneath her and that she wants to be an entrepreneur, she said, you know, a kind of leading female entrepreneur. But, you know, influencers, I would venture, many of them earn probably more than all of us sitting here together in one go.
I don't like to think about it.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not an unsuccessful career to have.
But that's the thing. If you want to be an entrepreneur, Richard, it's what are you entrepreneuring? You need to become influential and influencer first. Sure.
Well, I mean, in a way, it's just a sign of how things haven't worked out for Meghan, because, you know, she left behind that. She tried to, you know, be an influencer, start the TIG. I mean, no one had heard of that at the time at all. It was very minor stuff, in the same way that most people hadn't heard of her. But she happily, willingly left that behind to become a princess, and then she was going to be a stateswoman, a figure on the world stage. Well, the fact she's back doing this, really, as a sort of influencer type, shows that things haven't worked out, to me.
Interesting. What did you make of that? There was, at the start of the Mindy episode, she says something like, you know, I realise Mindy's coming and I don't have anything to feed her. But then there's like a massive big basket of eggs on the counter and she opens the fridge and it's full. It just seems a bit...
insincere?
So is it contrived? Is it like, should someone have done a different script to go with the full basket of eggs?
Yeah, I thought that didn't work, because we know from the sort of pre-publicity that it's not her home. And so then sort of, oh, who's going to turn up at my house kind of thing. It's just weird, you know. And, you know, not many people have a fridge as beautifully clean and ordered as hers. So it was all there ready for her guest's arrival.
And then there's, you know, sort of like all the beautiful outfits. It's like, I guess, again, to my point, it's a lifestyle show. It's not meant to be real. It's aspirational, right?
How she did not splash something on her clothes, I do not know. I mean, or maybe I am, I'll be honest, I am very clumsy. I mean, I can't make a cup of tea without spilling something. But she was pristine at the end of every episode, and I must applaud her for that, I have to say.
Did you learn anything? I know the Ice Cubes episode caught your attention.
There was a line, I wish I could remember the exact wording off the top of my head, but she basically said, ice cubes are great because you can put them in your drinks and to keep them cold, and they don't dissolve and add to the volume.
Well,
so
I have to say this, because when you were talking about this earlier, it's like, do you remember when the world annihilated Pippa Middleton?
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Simple, sort of like overly simple
Pippa tips,
lifestyle tips. It's no different.
No, I think we all owe an apology to the Princess of Wales' sister Pippa for this, because everyone mocked her for the Pippa tips. It was a book, I think it was called Celebrate, and it was very similar to this. But Meghan's was even more obvious. I mean, come on, there's one episode where it's, let's prepare for a child's birthday party. So she suggests, let's make sandwiches. And you think, oh, interesting, yeah. What should we have?
To be honest, that is a brave move in California, just to get the bread out, I'll be honest.
We'll have ham and cheese, so they make ham and cheese sandwiches.
Processed.
And then she adds her personal touches. And then she thinks, how can we decorate? How can we get children excited for a party? I know, we'll have balloons. You think, thank goodness, I really value that tip. But no, it got better, because actually it's quite exhausting to keep blowing up all these balloons. So Meghan had an answer for you. You buy something, which she said you can buy online.
You were going to say get an assistant to do it.
No, you can buy online a machine which will pump up the balloons for you. Now that's brilliant. I mean, she has earned all the money that Netflix has paid her.
Oh. And I noticed with those sandwiches, they cut out shapes, and that's something I think a lot of parents have been doing for years. But then she sprinkled them with edible flowers. And look, maybe I'm a very bad mother, but my family and most of my children I know, if you put edible flowers on sandwich, they'd be like, ugh,
but
what's
again,
that?
maybe we just...
And we'd have to pick them off before they'd even eat them.
But maybe we just don't know California kids. I mean, maybe California kids like Manuka honey in their party bag to take home.
Oh, don't, Jo. Well, you know my feelings on this. So, in the same episode, she was making these party bags for the children to take home. And it was compostable pot with seeds in. And she said, basically, if you really want to treat them, put one of these little sticks of Manuka honey in. And I mean
it is cute, but I know, like the kids would be like, where's my lollipop?
They want their Haribo, they want their bouncy ball, and they want some plastic tat that their parent is going to throw in the bin the minute they've gone to sleep, quite frankly.
I'm pretty old now, but I still remember the days of getting those party bags and just pulling them out to see what sweets were in there. But can you imagine pulling them out and finding it's a few seeds and a little...
Maybe kids are just very different since your day so very long ago.
I know a few kids that would have probably asked to have their present back as a refund because they felt they've been shortchanged. I mean,
California definitely seems to be a different world.
We could be being a bit mean. It's just a very different lifestyle thing, and
maybe
it's not one I'm used to.
Well, and Meghan has missed California. She says in the final episode, Richard, that while she's making some salad, that the salad tastes like home, and I've missed California, which. She's been there for 5 years now. It's like...
Well, it ties in with other comments she makes in that final episode, and it's sort of, how I've suffered, basically, while being in the royal family. I mean, come on, she was only in Britain for about 2 years. I mean, let's be clear, prior to that, she'd lived in Canada, in, was it Toronto? For quite a few years,
7
I think.
years,
7
doing
years.
Suits,
7 years. So she hadn't lived in California, since she left her first husband. Let's be honest. So the idea that it's so painful, but it sort of just ties into that sort of victim mentality, really.
Do you think, Rebecca, there's any genuine insights into hers and Harry's life in the show?
Well, she does mention the children are lost and the kind of things they do at home. She mentions Harry loves fried chicken. There's a little video a movie video of her walking with Delphina, one of her friends, in the Hollywood Hills, and you can hear Harry behind the camera laughing as he jumps out and surprises them. And obviously Harry does make an appearance at the end. But I think this goes back to the original point that we were making. If you want people to buy into your lifestyle and want to emulate it, it needs to be authentic. And I'm not sure there was that many insights into their lives personally.
And also on that note of authenticity, Richard, she does in a lot of the episodes sort of constantly say she's not an expert. So you just are wondering. If she's not the expert in cooking, and you can go to experts in cooking, you can go to experts in interior decor on any platform you choose. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, so for example, before she bakes a cake, she made the point, I don't really like baking. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But I think, to be fair, she then wants to show, actually, it's not that hard. This is how you can bake a tasty cake. But the point is, it's not a cookery show. It's not an expert show. So it's her lifestyle. It's kind of, because remember, this ties in with the business, the lifestyle business. It's basically, I mean, let's be frank, it's all about money, and it's how you can buy into Meghan's enviable lifestyle.
But I guess that's, to me, it's like the question is like, what is the lifestyle? If I don't like baking, but here I'm going to bake for you. So why are you watching the person who doesn't like baking and admits to not being that good at it doing it?
Well, I think you would watch it just because you enjoy spending time in Meghan's company.
Right,
That's Netflix obviously hopes there's a lot of people who do out there, and the proof will be in the expertly made pudding.
And to be fair to her, she clearly enjoys spending time in the kitchen. She's clearly a keen, enthusiastic amateur cook.
Well, is she? I don't know. It's not her kitchen.
Well, that's true. But I think you have to be reasonable about these things. And she does clearly enjoy things. She's quite talented at presentation, presuming it's her that's done this and not food stylists. And we see her doing, some of the presentation herself. It looks very beautiful. I mean, I don't have an arty bone in my body. I could not make a plate of crudités look lovely. And she does. So there is, she's an enthusiastic amateur. Whether that's enough to create enough a buzz about this programme and what it's trying to achieve and what it's trying to ultimately sell is another question.
I will say she has absolutely beautiful handwriting.
Yes, she does. She does. Yes,
we know she did
renowned.
some calligraphy professionally, didn't she? But you see her writing, and her handwriting put some of us to shame.
Indeed, and we do, as you mentioned, see Harry in that final episode. What was that like?
It was quite a blink or you'll miss appearance. I mean, she references him in a few of the episodes, and then says in this 8th episode, "Oh, my husband's just popping by to come and see." And she has
popping by to his house, or just
to the house that she's filming in, along with her mother Dory and a few friends to celebrate her, basically, and the start of her business. And you see him turn up, and there's a very warm hug and a kiss between them. And she said, "Isn't this great?" And he said, "Yeah, it's wonderful. You've done a great job." And you see him with a glass in a hand, and their arms around each other. But it is very blink and you'll miss it. And certainly in the interview in People magazine, they quoted an anonymous crew member that said that was deliberate because although he popped around to see her and was very supportive while the filming process was on, he felt this was her time to shine. Truthfully, I think also he just doesn't like getting his hands grubby selling stuff.
Yeah.
And, he wants to stick to his philanthropic side of things and giving kind of speeches which you could get paid, decent amount of money for, and leave the kind of the cold, hard sales side of their life to her.
Richard, there was a line that apparently upset you in the show. What was it?
Well, this was her. That final episode's really interesting because it kind of shows what it's all about. And I mean, what annoyed me was, she said that basically, thank you for coming to all these guests. She said the people she loves most, and that she's just delighted to be able to use creativity again, which she hasn't been able to do. So it was very unsubtle, but the strong implication of that was, while I was in the royal family, I couldn't sort of show my creativity. Well, that's highly offensive because, I mean, just think about what you can do as a member of the royal family. I mean, Prince Philip, for example, he was the, consort, but he helped establish the Worldwide Fund for Nature. Prince Charles, as Prince of Wales, established the Prince's Trust and numerous other things. And then William and Catherine now are doing all sorts with Earthshot Prize and various initiatives. So the idea that it somehow stifles your creativity, I mean, let's be clear, what she actually meant was money. It meant she couldn't make money. When I first revealed that she was going to be making this programme, it was because she'd launched her lifestyle brand, and she basically then said to Netflix, I want a programme to go with it to help promote the brand. That's what this is all about. I mean, Daniel Martin, the makeup artist who features in episode 1, for example, he visited Meghan at Windsor when she was still a member of the royal family. And I remember him putting on Instagram like an image of the lovely avocado on toast and stuff, which she'd made for him. So she's perfectly entitled to entertain, to make what she likes, you know? So it's just, it's that victim myth, basically, that, you know, she's the victim and now she's free. It's really quite offensive.
What do you think, Rebecca, that the royal family, those in royal circles, will make of it? Have they been sat around glued to Netflix this morning?
I think I can safely say no. I mean, I've asked a few people. I asked someone last week about it, and they went, "Oh, when is it? Tuesday?" I mean, they were that disinterested.
I don't believe they're all uninterested.
Look, I'm sure there's some people might watch it and they might get past the first episode. They might not, but honestly, I genuinely think they don't feel it has any relevance to them whatsoever. And to be fair to Meghan, this isn't. Look, I mean, you can argue till the cows come home, would she have got a deal like this and a show like this in her own right if she hadn't have been married to a member of the royal family?
Of course she wouldn't.
Of course she wouldn't. No, I know that's the answer, Richard. I know that. But what I'm saying is, as long as she is not now using her position as a royal in an obvious way to sell it, which I don't think she is in this, then she's got every right to do it if they want. And as long as she stays in her lane, I suppose, and sticks to doing that without nakedly commercialising the royal family, then they don't have an axe to grind.
And we've mentioned before on this show that actually they probably would find it quite useful if it was very successful, because then then they won't need to be harping on about all of the, digging up dirt about the royal family.
Yes, I wrote a piece for Mail Plus some time ago, and it was that they were saying exactly that.
Yeah.
That actually, it would suit the royal family if this is a success, frankly, so that if she can make a success out of lifestyle programmes, great.
And speaking of the commercial elements of it, what did you make of those in the show?
Yes, I mean, I think the idea really was that there would be things featured in the programme which you would be able to buy, but the company just wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
So there will be things that, it's like a spin-off, it's sort of like almost like you saw in the programme, and it will be things like edible flowers that you can sprinkle on your children's ham sandwiches.
Kids love it.
Or, various types of jam and conserves and that sort of thing. So those will come on stream soon, but they're just not ready. But it will be that element of buy into that wonderful Californian lifestyle.
And that does seem a bit of a blunder, doesn't it? Because you'd think you're going to actually make more money in the immediate term, aren't you? That people would say, oh, I like the pan she used to cook that focaccia in. I want to buy that pan. Let me click on a link and do it. Will they remember it if it comes out in a few months' time? I mean,
well, there's no question they've had problems.
Yeah.
I mean, remember that it was officially launched as American Riviera Orchard.
Yeah.
That's been abandoned now. We've got, and it's not with Love Meghan, the brand is As Ever. So she's still going through or has only just started the process really of the trademarking and getting that approved.
Now, early reviews, Rebecca, it's fair to say, haven't all been glowing and gushing.
They've been pretty brutal, I have to say. Even in The Guardian in the UK, which is a left-wing leaning newspaper, is very anti-establishment, very anti the royal family, and has been, because of that, largely pretty supportive of Harry and Meghan. And their review today roasts them and basically says, well, say goodbye to your Netflix deal, because this is not going to have secured it. And they just say it's banal, it's pointless. Pretty much all of the UK reviews have been universal. Someone had drew my attention to Harper's Bazaar, I think just before I came out. That was obviously an American publication, positive. Maybe that's not to be, unexpected either. I think the trouble is, she is, as we've often said, such a divisive figure. You will either like her and warm to it, or you don't and you won't.
Well, I mean, I hate to be the one to point out, but I think the Harper's Bazaar piece was written by a journalist they took to
Columbia with them.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, look, people will say you've got an axe to grind, but I promise you guys, I genuinely started watching this programme at 8 o'clock this morning with an open mind, just like I did Polo last year, because actually I really liked the trailer for their Polo programme. I love a bit of trash TV, and it looked very Selling Sunset and quite exciting. And I genuinely couldn't get through the first episode because I felt you know, there wasn't a goodie or a baddie you could relate to. Everyone was just incredibly unappealing. And but I genuinely went into watching this programme today thinking, actually, I might learn something, you know. I quite like the focaccia she cooked. I might give that a go.
Well, the review I'm looking forward to is Jan Moyer's, which will be in the Daily Mail shortly. So she's just brilliant with words.
Adopt the brace position.
I've heard that she said that the series offered her all she expected and more.
Okay, well that could really go either way. On a serious note, the whole show was postponed, Richard, wasn't it, in the wake of the LA fires? But it's still very rich people in their very nice houses. Does it make much difference that it's been postponed in that respect?
No, I thought that decision was odd to postpone it, really, because, you know, what difference does it make? As we say, it's meant to be a bit of sort of, I presume, escapist TV.
But I think some people were presuming that there would be edits done to it in the wake of the fires, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, I might have missed something, but I didn't pick up on any references to the fires, and they would have looked very out of place, because I mean, you know, this was a programme, basically very rich women with lots of time on their hands, apparently, to do stuff which other people don't have a chance to, enjoying lunches and enjoying a great lifestyle. I mean, if this had been made by a working member of the royal family, oh my goodness, it would almost be the end of the monarchy. It'd be Marie Antoinette stuff. I mean,
it would never be made.
You know, I mean, can you imagine? You know, if you know, Catherine and Princess of Wales did it, it's just unthinkable.
I can't see Princess Anne going on TV making fruit rainbows, though. Although there's part of me that would love to see that. Just make it, shut up, stop fussing about it and get on with it.
Oh, come on, a reality show about Princess Anne's life would be great. Yeah,
Princess Anne would just hurl an orange at you and get you to peel it yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
She would. Now, what do you both think? Is this going to get picked up for a second series? Would this be the making of Meghan's lifestyle career?
In some ways, I'm not expert enough to, you know, on programming and how much this works. I mean, I think I've said, I think there are some people it will appeal to, the die-hard Meghan fans, some people who want to kind of have a rubber neck and a look, some people who probably like lifestyle programming. I think other people just will not want to watch it because it's her, and anything she does won't float their boat. I say, as someone who's watched every minute of the 8 episodes, which are over half an hour long, I just came away, I think, well, you saw me, my shoulders down, feeling like I'd lost about 4 hours of my life.
And a failure as a mother because you...
Because I don't sprinkle edible flowers on my children's.
Well, my prediction is there could be another series, but essentially only if Harry and Meghan agree to give more of themselves to Netflix, that in addition to this, they do something like the series they did before, which was a big hit, which I'm afraid will involve talking about the royal family again. I think if they want a lot more money from Netflix, they will have to do something like that. I think I'm pretty confident in saying that no way will they get another lucrative deal for programmes like this.
And interesting, that's what the Guardian review that I mentioned a few questions earlier said, you know, people... The one project they've had that's been very successful involved a lot of whinging, a lot of cattiness about the royal family, a lot of family put my teeth back in again, a lot of family revelations, and that's the one thing they've done that's been very successful. Everything else they've done trying to branch out of that has been an unequivocal flop. So.
One of the most astonishing stories to come out of the Netflix show was Meghan's insistence that she was no longer Meghan Markle, but Meghan Sussex. As you can imagine, Richard had a fair bit to say about this, as did his sources.
Since the programme was broadcast on Tuesday, I've been talking to people about this, and I think this business of the Sussex name is really important, like genuinely significant for Meghan, because remember, not only did she stop Mindy Kaling in her tracks when she used the name Meghan Markle and corrected her.
That was like nails down a chalkboard for me.
Well, it really was, because the whole tone of the series is meant to be really easygoing and everything, so you just wouldn't kind of correct people. So that was odd. Meghan obviously wanted that to be included. But also, she talked about the same subject in her interview with People magazine. Now, what people have been saying to me on this side of the pond and at the palace is that they interpret it as a warning shot, that it's Meghan saying, don't you think about stripping us of our titles, which, remember, is something which has been talked about a lot. Each time they've done something terrible like, criticise the royal family or reveal confidential discussions, as Harry did in his memoirs. What's been said in the past is it's something which could happen in the future, that the king might do it, if they carry on doing something else. Well, this is Meghan's way of saying, don't even think about that.
Do you think that's true, Rebecca? I mean, the timing does seem weird, and especially it does seem like a little issue that's become a big thing because she's made it a big thing.
I mean, she definitely was making a point of it, because even if that was her off-the-cuff reaction, you might look at it and go, do you know what, that doesn't really come across very well, can you cut that out? I mean, she is, as we see very clearly at the end of the show, the executive producer. It's there in black and white, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, and clearly she wanted a point of it being kept in. The one thing I would say is that I've always been guided that there is no intention whatsoever of stripping them of these titles, because the king, a bit like their HRHs, to take them away completely feels that it would be a humiliation too far heaped on his son, and that it would really mean there would be no going back.
But technically what you're saying is it is a possibility.
It could happen. It was a gift of Queen Elizabeth effectively when they got married, and obviously the king is head of state and head of the family, and effectively it could be in his gift to take away by what we call letters patent, which we spoke about fairly recently, which is this kind of written expression of the king's wish, which becomes effectively law.
And let's be clear here, we're dealing with I would say paranoid people, and I've written about this in my article because there's a previous example of this, which is that when Archie was born, on his birth certificate, he was Archie Harrison, Mountbatten, Windsor, and the Sussexes briefed favoured journalists that they wouldn't be getting titles. Well, then we saw in the Oprah Winfrey interview that it was a big issue, that they felt that he was going to be denied a title. And they were really outraged by this. And in fact, Meghan went on to suggest that she thought that was because he was mixed race. So it was an explosive allegation, which was based on nonsense, because it was basically the rules are that grandchildren of the king, of the sovereign, would have the title. But at that point, Archie was a great-grandson of the monarch, Queen Elizabeth. So when Charles became king, he did have the right to have that title, which they've gone on to use. But so my point is, they are very sensitive about these issues, my goodness.
Well, they are, and we will put a link to the article in the description below if you want to read that from Richard. But it does also beg the question about, we talked about when William is king earlier. It feels like it's something that the spectre could be raised again when he is king. Well,
it's definitely something that could be done very easily if they cause more trouble. I mean, look, it doesn't take a great fantasy, but let's say this amazing TV series of Meghan is not the success that Netflix had hoped. They might say, we're happy to give you another huge deal, but only if you do another programme about your relations with the royal family.
Yeah.
And at some point, the king or Prince William in the future might say, you know what, I do not want them to be tarnished with this royal dukedom, this royal title, they're embarrassing us. So, Meghan's saying, if you do that, you've got a fight on your hands.
Oh, wow. Well, we'll answer some similar questions in a special viewer Q&A that we're putting out on the channel. So look out for that early next week. Now, Richard, there was also another apparent contradiction between what Meghan said about her name here and what she said about it before.
Well, this, I think what you're referring to is, again, in the Oprah Winfrey interview, where people have picked up on this, actually. They've gone back to that interview. And she made a point when she was, whining about how awful it was to be in the royal family. She said that things were taken away from her, and, including she's almost lost her name. And that seemed to be a reference to the Markle name, which she was sad about losing. Or that's the interpretation people have put on it. But then now she's saying, don't call me Markle. she's telling off her friends, for using the name. So it's quite odd behaviour, I would say.
It's interesting. Now, Rebecca, another thing that has been picked up a lot about on social media was just how beige her outfits were throughout the whole series.
I mean, yeah, as we discussed in our emergency programme on Tuesday, I will never tire of that. That does make me giggle.
Urgent emergency.
That she wore, you know, these stunning outfits from top to bottom, without the even merest hint of an heirloom tomato dropped on any of them. But what did make me smile was obviously one of her big criticisms of when she was a royal is that she wasn't allowed to wear what she wanted, and she wasn't allowed to wear any colour in case it overshone the Queen. But then again, they didn't want to dress in kind of neutral palette. You know, again, I think this goes back to the contradictions at the heart of a lot of what the Duchess of Sussex says in terms of the way she was treated. And I certainly know, just going back to your original point about the whole Sussex title thing, that was one of the things that really wound up the palace staff, because they spent a long time trying to explain this is how things work. This is no slight to you, it's the way things work. Just give it a few years and you'll get everything that you want. But they weren't willing to listen, they weren't willing to comprehend it.
I should say that maybe one reason for Harry and Meghan's sort of concern at that time was something that Queen Elizabeth did, because she brought in, issued a letters patent to give Princess Charlotte a title as well,
right.
Because as she was a girl, she wasn't going to get one. It was only the male heirs that would get the title. So she issued a letters patent. So I think at that point, Harry and Meghan started to think, well, wait a minute, why is she, that's been done for her, and then Archie might not get one.
But
so
because she was the daughter of the future king, was that why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Queen Elizabeth, it was a sort of, almost like a feminist move, really.
Right,
so just to show, to
yeah.
give that status and to kind of modernise the situation. But it was interpreted by Harry and Meghan as, this is another thing we've got to be worried about.
And just back to the show, do we know yet how it's rated, Meghan's show?
Well, what we do know is Meghan's put on her Instagram, she was boasting that it was in the top 10 of most popular Netflix programmes, I think. But look, I mean, a programme like this, with all the hype and the attention, you would have thought would get quite high because people want to see. I think all that Netflix will care about is how many people go on to watch lots of episodes and how long do they watch for. If they just tune in for 10 minutes and think, but are they hooked? That's what Netflix wants.
Yeah, and do we know yet how it's done?
I
don't think we've had viewing figures yet, but it's steady, the kind of in the top 10 around the world. But I would add to what Richard said, is I think there's going to be a lot of people, of course there will be the Meghan fans, but a lot of people will be tuning in for maybe an episode or two to see what the fuss is about, and it's whether there's longevity in that. And I'd probably, certainly based on the reviews,
I was just going to ask just
surprised.
One last question. Have you read a good review?
So I wrote a big piece in the Mail today.
Was yours the good review?
No, based on the reviews around the world. And the headline the sub-editor put on it was Meghan's show is universally ... disliked, basically.
Right.
The reviews have been excruciatingly bad. Now, of course, her supporters will say, well, that's what we'd expect of the British media. They would never give her a fair run. Fine if that's what they think. But those reviews are not just in the British media, they're in Variety, the Hollywood Bible, they're in the Hollywood Reporter, they're in Time magazine, which, let us not forget, only 4 years ago listed the Sussexes as one of their 100 people to watch. These are big, heavyweight, hard-hitting and influential magazines and publications in the United States, the exact publications that Meghan would want to impress, and they have universally said, for various different reasons, this is pretty awful.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Anyway, Richard, a word on Prince Andrew now, and what was hoped would be a financial lifeline for him is now appearing in doubt.
Poor old Prince Andrew. Every time he thinks things are looking up, someone comes along and swipes things away from him. This was a Dutch company that wanted to buy basically his kind of contacts book from his Dragon's Den style venture Pitch at Palace, which was matching up entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs usually, with funding. And they thought, God, that'd be quite good. That could be worth something. And there were suggestions that Andrew would be able to make quite a bit of money from it. But now, apparently, the Dutch companies has stressed that nothing's been signed, even though they've visited Buckingham Palace and they've met officials and everything about it. Nothing's been signed yet. And you do get the impression they might be getting a bit nervous. So
Bugger.
Well, the worst thing is,
isn't it? It's just like.
And then if this doesn't come off for Andrew, oh dear, then he'll be looking for some other deal to make. So
and that will worry Buckingham Palace, because again, this is what goes back to the whole point about why the King wants him out of Royal Lodge, because he can't afford that lifestyle and he wants him to have something that's more affordable, which will stop this what seems to be a perpetual cycle with the Duke of York, which is getting himself into hot water.
He needs a Netflix show.
Actually,
please don't suggest that, because it could be very entertaining.
Actually, do you know what? At Home with the Yorks, I think that's got merit.
At Home with my teddies.
And actually, that's what some of the caustic reviews of With Love Meghan have been about. Is they said there's one I think it was in the Guardian actually, which is quite a very anti-monarchist, left-leaning newspaper in the UK. But they said, look, at the end of the day, this is their, third flop in a row, and out of the 4 products,
we don't know it's a flop yet.
Yeah, I mean, this is what they're predicting, but they said that the fourth, the only one out of the 4 they've produced which was successful involved a great deal of whining about the royal family, and they said maybe they just need to realise where their future lies and maybe become the new Osbornes.
Well, despite some rather miserable reviews from various news outlets, Meghan announced that a second series of With Love Meghan would land on Netflix in the autumn. But Richard uncovered that all was not as it seemed.
Well, yes, there is. I think essentially it's a sort of PR stunt that Meghan went straight on. She's becoming very prolific on Instagram now, and she recorded a story saying, "Ray, we're going to have a second series that will be available." But let's be clear, what happened here is they hired a location, they spent money on a house, a mansion where this was filmed, and they filmed enough material for 2 series at the same time. So it was done and dusted, and Netflix will release the second series in the autumn. But I think they were always going to do that. I mean, it did make me wonder, how bad would the reception have had to be for the first series for Netflix not to broadcast a second?
Well, they wouldn't. I don't think they'd ever really not broadcast something when they'd already spent the money on it.
Exactly, they spent the money on it, and crucially, the thing to remember is that Netflix have a financial interest in Meghan's lifestyle company. Must get the name right. It was American Riviera Orchard. It is now As Ever. And As Ever, they will make money from it if people buy the jams and the sprinkly flowers or whatever. So from Netflix's point of view, a second series, more promotion, would help make some money, and also maybe give them more of a return on the huge amount of money which we think they've already paid Harry and Meghan.
I'm fascinated by it. We keep talking about this As Ever brand under whatever name it currently has. There's still nothing on sale, is there?
No, in fact, their website just says spring 2025. So.
Come on.
I thought we were in the spring, aren't we?
Yeah, allegedly.
So I think it's imminent, but they've got the items up there now, not with prices, I have to say, but it does include, jam in special boxes. Yes, those sprinkled edible flowers.
It just seems crackers not to have it available at the same time that you're watching it all on the show.
Exactly, that's what I said in the programme the other day. You'd surely get more value out of it if people watching go, "Ooh, I quite fancy that, let's click on the link and do it."
So do you think that maybe there is a sort of a strategy here that the second series not out till autumn, so maybe there's more time for Meghan to bed in as a cooking and lifestyle influencer, and then they can sell more products? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think the trouble is because they had so many problems with American Riviera Orchard, they've had to really, as we say in the UK, turn on the sixpence again and try and come out with a new idea, and they just haven't had time, I would have thought, to get the packaging, the design, all of that together. And don't forget, we've got one more thing to come from her between now and the autumn, which is in the spring we're going to have her new podcast series.
Oh, not the same podcast.
The torment never ends. I'll have to listen to that as well, will I?
All we know is she signed up with this small female-led firm,
Lemonada. Yeah.
And when she gave an interview to People magazine in advance of the recent Netflix series, she said in that would be coming out this spring as well. So it's going to be a lot of Meghan Sussex related.
I think what we will see as well is a lot more promotion of Meghan on the lifestyle front. So
Yes.
she's obviously enjoying having this Instagram account, and we'll see loads. I mean, she's already sort of highlighting how viewers are trying to make their own, you know, special fruit displays and this type of thing. So I think we'll see lots of that to build up her as the new, you know, lifestyle guru before we have to sit down and watch that second series in the autumn.
Did you have your rainbow fruit salad for
I think I
breakfast
might
today?
book a holiday for that period so I can avoid.
No, because then you'll leave me to watch it on my own, Richard, and I need some company.
You love it. You love it. But
Well, I still haven't made a rainbow, fruit
you not?
rainbow yet or anything like that.
I have
so-
made a few sandwiches since then, but I forgot to sprinkle anything on top.
so you're both such a disappointment.
I know.
It's terrible. But Richard, there was a piece in Mail Online that suggested that they were a little bit rattled at Netflix by the reviews of the show.
Yes, I mean, this was just saying that insider figures, there was no one quoted on the record, but it was saying that at Netflix they have been quite shocked and disappointed by the reception to the first series, in the sense of, you know, they might always expect a few bad reviews in Britain. They think, you know, we've got some agenda against her or something. But what they might not have expected is publications like Variety or Hollywood Reporter also to be giving very bad reviews to the show. And I mean, it's interesting to say, because it's hard. It's not like YouTube where you can sort of see how many views something gets. With Netflix, you're never quite clear whether something's popular or not.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's debatable how successful it's been. And Netflix will have the figures for, you know, how long are people watching, how many episodes are they watching. So, you know, maybe more will emerge about that. But certainly I think according to this account, they have been surprised at how bad the reception has been.
Well, I'm just going to provide a little bit of balance in that I have read a few just personal blogs and online things. People who like it really like it. So, you know, a lot of people have described it as something soothing in our troubled times.
Well, that's what I said when we reviewed
Yeah.
the programme. I said
Yeah.
that basically if you like Meghan and spending time
Yeah.
with her,
Yeah.
you'll enjoy this. And if you don't, then avoid like the plague.
Well, I saw some figures the other day, and I don't know how legitimate they are, but they were suggesting it attracted, I think, about half a million viewers, but that compared to 2.1 million for the Harry and Meghan documentary.
Right.
So it was a fraction of what, you know, they had previously achieved with their only one successful product for Netflix.
Netflix would do much better if it just signed up Palace Confidential. Oh, sorry, I'm not meant to say that, but yeah.
It's a thought. Now, one stinker of a review came from an actual doctor on the Daily Mail's staff, the psychiatrist Dr. Max Pemberton, writing for the Mail this week. He called Meghan's extravagant children's party spread competitive and performative parenting, and he said every episode smacked of the kind of shallow, toxic positivity we see on Instagram, that the whole thing felt like mean girl trolling. Gosh, that's a strong set of words, isn't it, Richard?
It is. Max Pemberton's always worth reading. And, you know, he's making the point that Instagram, you know, a lot of us, probably me included, you try and sort of show your best self, don't you? And it's become very, you know, aspiration might be people, you know, boasting about this, that or the other. And, you know, for women now who are expected to, you know, look great, everything's got to be perfect. And here they are with this lifestyle show where, you know, even for a blooming children's party, they've got to be making perfect sandwiches sprinkled with flowers. You know, it's like another pressure on working mothers, isn't it? You know.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I would never feel pressured by a lifestyle show, would you?
I wouldn't, but then I know people who probably would feel
Really?
they had to.
Yeah.
And actually, I have to say, Dr. Mac, I would say this, I know, working for the Mail, but genuinely, Dr. Mac Pemberton's columns are brilliant. And I properly read that, not even knowing we were discussing it on the show from start to finish. There's some wise words in there, I have to say. It's definitely worth a read.
And we know how social media has changed people's attitudes to looks and stuff. You know, they've got to look great, they've got to look perfect, that type of thing. So you can imagine doing the same in terms of sort of lifestyle.
I wonder if you look at that, you know, the beautiful house, the rolling gardens with your own produce, do you think that it's a glimpse into why the royal family aren't so keen to flaunt the luxurious side of their lifestyle?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the trouble is, it's quite difficult. It's quite a difficult issue for the royal family to navigate because they do have considerably nicer houses than the rest of us, which is why I think it was so enchanting when we got that glimpse of, you know, the Queen's life at Buckingham Palace.
Well, according to Harry, Frogmore's a dump, isn't it? So
the fact that she'd have her you know, Tupperware pops of breakfast cereals and stuff, and it kind of made us feel, gosh, she's probably like me or my mum or my nan. So it's quite difficult, but then they do wear very you know, expensive clothes and have wonderful jewellery. I mean,
we did see inside Princess Anne's house once, didn't we?
Yeah, and hers is kind of what I would call a normal, pretty chaotic country house. You're talking about kind of putting things online. I mean, the one thing as I said the other week, I'd slightly lost the will to live with this series after the whole issue about making ice cubes. And just for a joke, I posted on my social media the one time I tried to make cakes for the school bake sale, and basically, I don't know how to put this politely, but they ended up looking like a teddy bear was, you know, going to the toilet on my cake.
Right.
You have to see it to know.
To be honest, that's the kind of thing that would really excite children. They would quite like
I'm afraid I think I might have bought one from the local supermarket for those type of sales.
And that's, for me as a parent, that's what parenting about, is trying your best and trying to help out, but knowing actually it's probably not really going to be very perfect after all. That said, my cakes did sell out because, as one of the kids said to me, no one's ever bought a cake to a bake sale that looks like a bear's doing a poo on it. So.
But remember that one of Meghan's kind of slogans from her series is, you know, love is in the details. And really, is it? I mean, I don't think it doesn't show you're any more loving if you know, spend ages over your fancy party.
Well, it's interesting. I want to remind you of a story you ran in your column this week. It's quite amusing. A former royal chef's view on Meghan's show. He didn't really pull any punches, did he?
No, this was Richard Corrigan, who's a celebrated chef and has cooked for the royal family, and he, not to put too fine a point on it, hated the series. He watched a bit and he just thought it was so pretentious. But I think he's a very down-to-earth Irishman, and he didn't like the sort of the California cool, and I almost don't like saying that because I know a lot of people from California just say that is not us, that's not California. But the image put across in this programme he found objectionable. But he also just, I mean, I think he's just annoyed with Harry and Meghan quite a bit. He called it kind of cheap TV, and he thinks that he described them as being a burden on King Charles, because instead of just going away and doing their own thing or being private, they're just sort of doing all this stuff to get publicity, and that he clearly is not a fan.
Oh my gosh, let's get Richard Corrigan on the show.
I was going to say, interesting, I noticed overnight there was an article in the New York Post about a chef that had also, I think maybe a US-based chef, that had been critical of the programme, and he was saying that he'd got death threats as a result of being critical of it. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Richard Corrigan, it was a different chef, but you know, he said he was so taken aback by the reaction of the fans, of the Sussex fans.
Let's not all lose our minds over a cooking show.
Let's bit of perspective, people.
Should we move on? Meghan's business troubles continued when it was revealed the Duchess was attempting to trademark her lifestyle brand As Ever, but she kept running into various admin errors. Richard, as always, has the scoop.
I genuinely did find it extraordinary. I have to say, friends of hers have been in touch since to play it all down and say it's not a big deal. But what it was she's trying to trademark the new name for her lifestyle brand, As Ever. Remember, previously she tried to trademark American Riviera Orchard, and there were objections, and so she ditched that one. Well, now she's trying to register As Ever. But the story that I ran was that her application had been sent back to her. And it was sent back because there are a string of errors, including one which she had made several times before, which she failed to sign the application. And you just thought, whoa, this is starting to get a bit weird. I mean,
it is odd.
Yeah. So, as I say, her friends are keen to play it down and say, oh, it's routine with these kind of things. But it just seems that clearly someone's doing something wrong in terms of the admin, because that's what it is. It's just filling in the forms correctly, but there were various aspects that were just done wrongly and had to be sent back. So it doesn't mean it won't happen eventually, but you just think, why are these mistakes being made? And, you know, if they were still part of the royal family, I mean, blimey, heads would roll, wouldn't they?
Right.
I mean, could it be linked to the fact that they have this huge turnover of staff that we've, you know, heard about so often over the years? I just don't know, but it doesn't give a very professional image.
Yeah, Richard Kay, we've discussed stories similar to this on the show before. It starting to, as Richard Eden says, starting to defy belief that it's this slapdash.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, you can't imagine it happening with members of the royal family here. But of course, members of the royal family here don't have these commercial enterprises.
No.
They're not trying to monetize their positions. Meghan is. But as Richard says, I mean, we know that she's had a big turnover of staff, but we also know they have a lot of staff running around doing these chores for her. Why aren't they on it? It really is quite baffling.
And sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record, but why did she not try and trademark With Love Meghan, which works with the show and there's more consistency? It's just like, I feel like every 5 minutes there's a new name.
I don't know. Yeah. she hasn't explained that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're thinking it's branding, isn't it? So it's going to go on these pots of jam and edible flowers and stuff. With Love Meghan would work, you would have thought. As ever. Maybe she wants to keep it general. I mean, remember that if you're trying to sell goods, you might want to sell them to people who don't particularly like you. Well, keep it.
It's funny you say that because is it too cynical to suggest that with As Ever, Netflix could take it without the partnership with Meghan and keep it moving on without her?
I'm not sure about that, but certainly I thought the point of American Riviera Orchard is you could think, oh, these stuff's great, I want to buy some, even if you're not a fan of hers, whereas it might be off-putting if it's sort of Meghan. Yeah. But I don't know, you're trying to get into, Meghan's brain here, and that's not really for us to do.
That's why I was asking.
No.
Yeah. Anyway. As well as selling her As Ever products online, the Duchess of Sussex opened a Shop My account to allow her followers to buy the clothes, jewellery and beauty products she wears on Instagram. Here, Rebecca talks us through Meghan's insistence that she is an entrepreneur rather than an influencer. Got it? As well as the money the Duchess was likely raking in through affiliate links.
The entrepreneur, not an influencer.
Got it.
Yeah. Let's explain. So obviously this week, I think to most of our surprise, I think we thought it was going to come at some point, but maybe not quite now, that Meghan decided to launch herself as someone who was going to start promoting products on her Instagram site. So she launched it with 32 items of clothing accessory, ranging from, a £99 raincoat from Uniqlo, but also, a dress notably called the Windsor dress to over £1,000.
I did notice that, yes.
You noticed the royal studs as well, the ear studs. There was 25 beauty products as well. And basically she set herself out as one of these kind of affiliate merchandisers. So if you were to click on the link on her Instagram site and bought a product as a result of it, she will get a percentage of the profits, which is meant to be between about 10 and 30% depending on the item and the deal she has. So it's pretty nakedly commercial. She's doing it with a platform called Shop My, who said that some of their most successful clients are earning in excess of $1 million a year. So it's not small
I'm
money.
on Shop My, and I'm not one of those successful clients.
Are you?
No.
I'll have a look there at your stuff though, Jo. It's another very, very commercial venture from her.
Well, it is, and Meghan will be under scrutiny, Charlotte, won't she, for not only what she's selling, but how she's selling it.
Yeah, I think it's this affiliate links thing in terms of how she's selling it. So the difference between her and, say, Gwyneth Paltrow, who's got Goop, is that Goop is this massive website. It's a boutique. It's not far off Net-a-Porter, really.
I mean, it did start small, though, and grew.
Yeah, it started small and grew. I mean, she's starting very small, Meghan, because, as you say, there's only 32 products, aside from the makeup. But also, I just think it's extraordinary how she's saying she's an entrepreneur. None of these products are her own products. They are other people's that she's selling, and she's siphoning off a little profit each time someone buys something. She'll take a few quid to herself. And on another note, I can't really believe she's selling those Sesta handbags, because the Mail on Sunday did an amazing expose about how much people are paid that made those handbags. These women in Africa are earning pennies.
Which brand is this?
It's called Sesta handbags, and
she's invested in it.
She's invested in it, and it's great marketing for her because it's made by women in Africa. But she's not paying them as much as she'll be earning. She'll be earning, 100 quid a handbag from selling them on this website. I mean, that's a guess at that number, but, a substantial sum. These women are working for a week for £10. And to think that she's listed that handbag is just inviting trouble, I think.
What I find so striking is that, don't you remember we had all these stories about how Meghan was going to be an ambassador for Dior or Chanel or something like that?
Oh, I think, was that not speculation though, rather than...
Sure, it was speculation, but
yeah.
at the time people thought it was quite informed, and I think it was, you know, perhaps Meghan's agents weren't unhappy to see that sort of speculation.
Yeah.
But none of that came, and instead she's just trying to get commissions from people, you know, buying things she's worn.
So here's where I'm confused, not for the first time. So it's like, we've got the affiliate links. Has this got anything to do with the merchandising apparently coming with As Ever?
No, nothing.
Right,
That's
okay.
the point. This is not like Goop, where
Because you're saying to me she doesn't make anything, but I know she's made that damn jam, which I still can't buy.
But that'll be a different website, I think. So that's on
Right.
the asever.com website.
Okay.
Whereas this is a link on her Instagram bio that if you click on it, it presents you with 32 products that you can buy, and she will pocket some of the money that you pay for that product. So it's a commission-based website.
Exactly, and interestingly, she kind of launched it saying, as so many of you asked, I will do this for you. You know, here's a little shopping start the week, kind of Happy Monday type thing, more to come. So
we're saying, please, Meghan, tell us what you buy.
Maybe some people are.
Yeah, so.
There must be.
Look, she had a mildly successful career as an influencer before, so I can see it working. And she does have 2.6 million followers, although, you know, how many people of those are genuine followers, the rest are rubberneckers, I don't know. But, you know, she obviously must think there's a lucrative market in it for her.
Rubbernecker here. Rubbernecker.
Well, I should say my wife made one of her recipes for tea.
Oh, really?
For her, I didn't actually have it, but it was bananas covered in granola and then sort of frozen berries on top. So it was very nice.
And was that the reinvented banana split?
Yeah, reinvented banana
Must
split.
have taken hours.
So there you are.
Just when we thought we'd had enough of Meghan, she launched a podcast called Confessions of a Female Founder. Take a look at what Rebecca had to say about the podcast before Richard dives into Meghan's friendship with fellow founder Gwyneth Paltrow. Charlotte also adds her 2 cents about rumours Netflix wants a rather personal documentary from Harry and Meghan about Princess Diana.
It's called Confessions of a Female Founder. It's an 8-part series that's coming out on Lemonada Media next month in April. And she released a 2-minute teaser trailer. Now, I'll be honest, this is not my kind of normal listening fare anyway, but I'll be honest, it did sound very dull to me.
Oh, I thought you were going to... The way you said that, I think you were going to say, I'll be honest, it was more exciting than I thought.
No, because I mean, we don't know who the people she's interviewing. Yes, so she's teasing them up as women who've started with very small ideas and created billionaire businesses.
Okay, well, I think a lot of people would probably want to learn from that.
And there could be in that, depending on who these women are, merit. But, you know, the clip that they released is her saying to them, look, this is not a shark tank, this is like a dolphin tank, this is going to be very friendly waters for you. You know, there's a bit of a girl chat in it, she says. She started quizzing one lady about her relationship status. So I'm not really quite sure. I think, as I've said many times with her ideas, what this is meant to be and what the target audience is.
So it's about essentially how these female entrepreneurs grew their businesses.
Supposedly, yes.
So again, it's almost like she's positioning herself as an entrepreneur when she isn't one.
No, and she makes very, very clear in this. She said, as a woman who's just starting her own business, I am getting all these ideas from them when we're going to impart the wisdom to you.
I get that.
So look, let's see. I think Richard and I will probably take one for the team and listen to it.
No, I think
I wrote it in my diary.
We'll just make you listen to it, Richard, and you can tell us all about it. How does that sound?
I did write it in my diary, I have to say.
You get the big bucks.
That sounds good.
You can do that. Now, she does seem to have found a new friend, doesn't she, Richard, in a former Oscar winner?
Yeah, this was quite a surprise because there'd been lots of articles sort of reading into Gwyneth Paltrow's posts online. And obviously she's a neighbour in Santa Barbara. She has her own lifestyle, successful lifestyle company with Goop.
Mildly successful, yes.
And she's been doing some videos about, in her kitchen, making breakfast and this sort of thing. And people were wondering, has she been making kind of sly digs at Meghan? So anyway, when Gwyneth did one this week, who should pop up but Meghan herself? So Gwyneth Paltrow had invited her over, and it was quite amusing. So
do you think that was like just a really deliberate riposte to all this speculation?
I think, to be honest, I think Gwyneth Paltrow actually just has quite a good sense of humour. So I think she just thought it would be funny, which it was. Whether it leads to anything, I don't know. I'm sure that Meghan is crossing her fingers, thinking, "Please, can Gwyneth help me?"
And the irony, they did that overnight on the day that the Centre Barley story broke. So it was all completely overshadowed, certainly in the UK media, by the scandal over Centre Barley. So I don't think it really had, certainly in the UK, the effect that they maybe wanted.
Oh, well.
What do you think, Charlotte, of this report that's going around that, if Meghan's life as an influencer / entrepreneur doesn't work out, this story that Netflix want the Sussexes to make a new, very personal documentary. Does that sound right?
Yeah, so the reports that have leaked out, which I have to say have been denied, but often things are in the infancy, is that Netflix want them to talk about Princess Diana next. And there's been some talks about Prince Harry doing a documentary about his experience, obviously growing up with Princess Diana and her death. The report said really clearly that Meghan wasn't going to be involved in this, which I thought was really interesting and actually made me feel like it was probably a true story, but then it got denied. But what I would say is, despite the denial, it seems unlikely that it didn't come up in any of these Netflix meetings, from one side or the other, that maybe Diana could be a subject matter for their documentaries, because let's not forget they've been scrabbling around for ideas for Netflix all this time. They obviously did the big, talk about, life in the royal family.
I think, just to stop you, so the story is that this would be about the death of Diana, this documentary.
Yes, so this article said that the death of Diana would be the next subject for the Netflix deal. So the Netflix have this deal with Harry. He's got to produce a number of documentaries with Meghan, and one of them could be Diana. And given that Harry suggested an interview with Putin, I wouldn't be surprised if this was one of the ideas. Some pretty crazy ideas obviously came out in those early Netflix meetings. So it seems reasonable to suggest that Diana and her death was the subject of a potential documentary. However, at the moment, that's being denied by Team Sussex.
I think if he was to do it, it would bring him into massive conflict with his brother, because although Harry and William together cooperated, but I think with 2 documentaries about their mother over the years to mark particular landmarks. I know Prince William has made a point of saying, and if you remember, he stated it very obviously when we were talking about the whole scandal over her Panorama interview and how that was obtained. It's like, look, it really is time to let my mother's memory rest in peace now, and he's made that very, very clear. I mean, apart from joint charitable initiatives like the Diana Awards, which I think are very positive ones, they very much want to park that side of their mother's life.
That's why I thought the original article had a ring of truth to it originally. Famous last words in diary circles, ring of truth. But the fact that they very much said that Meghan wouldn't be involved made me think, if William has in any way sanctioned this, he would only do so if Meghan's not involved. So if it was up for discussion, maybe Harry would have said, look, don't worry, it's just going to be me doing it because it's my mother's memory. But it's been denied, so we don't know.
During a podcast interview with her friend Jamie Kern-Lima, eagle-eyed royal watchers spotted a gift basket with a card from Meghan signed HRH, the Duchess of Sussex. Here, Rebecca and Richard explain just why this is so problematic in the context of her brand.
Who would have thought the 3 little letters would be so problematic?
Wow, we're about to find out.
We are,
yeah.
And they are problematic. This has all come about because Meghan gave an extraordinary interview in a podcast with a friend of hers this week. I mean, we'd need a whole programme to unpick that podcast in its entirety, some of the statements which she came out with. But it was the littlest detail that has created the greatest fuss, because 40 minutes into the podcast, and I was listening to it up in the Isle of Mull, and suddenly this little picture, quite a grainy picture, flashed up, clearly taken with someone's phone, which shows a basket of, homemade preserves, ice cream and other goodies with a card on it, HRH, Duchess of Sussex, Meghan. And immediately I knew this was going to spark an absolute storm, because of course, under the Sandringham Agreement, which is not formally written down in words, but it's kind of, I suppose, for want of a better way, a gentleman's agreement, that they would not be using their HRHs for commercial purposes. Now, obviously, the Sussexes have immediately hit back and said, well, she's not using this for commercial purposes. This was, a gift basket to a close friend of hers. I think it's something she never expected to be made public. But obviously it sparked a lot of questions about why even in private she's using that full title, Her Royal Highness, just in correspondence with friends. It's really quite extraordinary.
But I have to say though, I mean, the reason we know about it is because it's featured in the podcast. Why is Meghan doing this podcast? To promote her lifestyle brand. And this is not the first time. So we've seen it. Meghan herself posted on Instagram a message she had received which was addressed to Your Royal Highness. So she wasn't embarrassed to publicise that. It seems quite the opposite. She's keen to make that point that she is a Royal Highness.
Am I misremembering, tell me if I am, that, when the famous Oprah interview, I don't remember exact quotes, but I certainly remember the flavour being, we just want to leave all of that royal formality behind. We want to live these simple, authentic lives. So why is that HRH being used in any capacity?
Well, because I don't think those statements before were all true or authentic,
right.
I have to say, because I think it does mean a lot to them. And it's a cachet and it's relevancy and it's a selling point of their position, who they are, which is members of the royal family.
But I thought the royal family was this terrible thing that needed to be escaped. And
well, what's extraordinary is, where are they? They're in America, the great egalitarian country that doesn't respect titles, doesn't use them. Everyone's equal. So to be handing out gifts, like, yes, you might be doing it privately, but then addressed from HRH, the Duchess of Sussex, seems very strange. But remember, this is the couple who put out after the birth of their first child, Prince Archie, that he wouldn't have a title. They told sources close to them, such as their friend Omid Scobie, they said, no, we don't want titles, that sort of thing. But then they complained in that Oprah Winfrey interview about they were going to be denied titles. So they made a point of calling them Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. So it's something that they're really keen on.
It's hard to keep up, isn't it? What do you think, Rebecca? Do you think the palace, will they do anything? Have they done anything?
Well, they've deliberately not said anything about this because I think we discussed on the programme before, in the whole era of just let's not poke the bear and let's just, try and have a period of peace. I have spoken to people who were around at the time when the whole Sandringham summit took place, and I think it's fair to say there's a fair amount of eye rolling. It doesn't come as a surprise to them. I mean, certainly when you talk about the issue about Archie and Lilibet's titles, there was a lot of frustration. I think I've told you before at the palace at the time that there was an unwillingness to understand that it wasn't that they were being denied titles, but the way it worked was they wouldn't become HRHs and prince and princesses in their own right, their children, until their grandfather, King Charles, acceded to the throne. So it was a question of, look, we don't like to discuss this because obviously it means the loss of Queen Elizabeth, but it will come to you in time and then it's up to you, should you choose to use them. And of course, as Richard said, absolutely they did.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of eye rolling and attitudes of, well, this doesn't surprise.
Richard, you've written about what William might do about this when he's king.
Well, someone I spoke to this week compared Harry and Meghan to sort of rebellious teenagers that are trying to sort of, push the limits to see what they can get away with. And I really have got that impression myself over recent weeks. I mean, it's all part of this, Meghan's taken to social media with gusto. She really is. Every time I look at my phone, I've got, a new Instagram story from her.
It feels like she missed it, right?
She really is enjoying it.
Yeah.
I should say I've joined TikTok myself, so I might have to be...
well done, Richard. Get the plugs in.
I might have to be competing with her for, But anyway, so she's seems to be, she's got a lot to promote, and that's why we're seeing it. But the question has been, would William act differently than his father, who, the king does seem to be indulgent, you could say. He's not taking action. He's trying not to provoke them at all. But people I've spoke to suggest that William would not be so tolerant, and perhaps he would strip them of their titles. But who knows? The thing is with William is he hopes that he won't become king for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think he's perhaps hoping that by that time, things may have sorted themselves out one way or another. I don't know.
And everybody's friends again.
But I don't know. But the direction they're going at the moment is Harry and Meghan are pushing, the boundaries, I'd say.
Well, we'll put a link to that piece by Richard in the description below. Now, Rebecca, we've also had an unexpected appearance from the Prince and Princess, Archie and Lilibet, this week. What's that all about?
Yeah, so they are featuring a lot more on Meghan's social media, which again is social media, which seems to be designed solely to publicise her commercial ventures. I think readers and viewers may have a view on that. And it's her making some of more of this homemade jam. It's always the jam. I'll never get away from the jam. And you can hear Lilibet's voice and her mother saying to her, what do you think of it? And you can hear this kind of very cute little American voice going, I think it's beautiful. And it is actually very cute, but again, I think it will leave quite a lot of people uneasy because, do you remember in one of the interviews she gave, she made a point of saying, why is it that the British media and the British public think they're entitled to kind of have public ownership of my child? And she was talking about how wrong she thinks it is for them to have to pose with their babies after they were born. And saying, I always remember very distinctly saying, it's like having a photograph on your desk in your office of your child and your co-workers saying, that entitles me to see every photograph of your child. And that's actually not what happens at all. William and Catherine, and hopefully we'll get some pictures of Charlotte this week because it's going to be her birthday. And we've got a nice working situation where they happily issue a portrait of their children and they will attend 1 or 2 public engagements a year. But that's it. And otherwise they're entitled to live their lives as children, growing up privately as much as they want. So they only tend to feature on social media with their parents if there is a specific birthday or a specific state occasion. So it's not the case at all. So I think this idea of the children making increasing appearances on Meghan's social media, which is plugging her business ventures. I mean,
let's not forget.
Start to wind people up.
Let's not forget, this is the couple who refused to give any details about the christening of Archie. I mean, they refused to even name the godparents, which is something which, it's quite easy to access for a normal christening at a church, in the Church of England.
It should be a matter of public record.
A matter of public record, and it always has been in the past. So they were that obsessed with the privacy. And then here you have, video of the children being put to promote her brand.
Well, that's kind of what your fellow Mail columnist Nadine Dorries, who was an MP in this country, had a theory about that, didn't she?
Yeah, I think she's generally quite well disposed towards Harry and Meghan, but her view is that the children are being used for commercial purposes because they're being used to promote the brand. And I would say that's self-evident.
Well, on that topic, Meghan might be disappointed about her podcast reception over here.
Well, I'm not sure. It's sort of it's sort of dropped down the charts, I think, a bit. And it was notable it's been beaten by certain podcasts. I mean, there was one, it was a guide to how to get to sleep. That had more listeners, apparently.
Well, apparently you watched Palace Confidential.
I was going to say, it's not called Palace Confidential, is it?
Yeah, so, those videos can be very useful. But no, I mean, there doesn't seem to be huge interest in this. And again, there's been questions as well about, who did Meghan want to get on her podcast? Was she hoping for really big names? The names haven't been so big this time. But who knows? I mean, the whole operation is smaller, isn't it? When they started, they were with, the audio giant Spotify, and now it's with a company that we hadn't previously heard of. So I think it is all much more low-key.
Soon after we found out that Harry and Meghan's favourability rating plunged to just 20% in a poll, watch as Richard and Charlotte discuss the potential impacts of this poll on their commercial ventures.
The headline to the poll was that it was about Harry and Meghan's lack of popularity. And I mean, it's just so striking because, it's easy to forget now, but Prince Harry was by far the most popular member of the royal family. Yeah. He was really loved, but he's now gone to, I think, if I remember rightly, I think it's 28% of people who responded to this survey had a favourable view of him. 28, I mean, it would have been like 80% in the past or something, and for Meghan it was even less. It was only 20%. But there was one bit of good news for them.
27 for Harry, I'm just hearing.
27 and 20 for Meghan. Yeah. And the only sort of crumb of comfort for Harry and Meghan is there is a member of the royal family who is less popular than them. And that is poor old Prince Andrew.
Oh my gosh.
Poor old.
Yeah.
So he actually serves a purpose now, is to make them feel less bad.
The bar is low.
But yeah, certainly Prince William and Catherine were very popular. I think it was 75% had a favourable view of William, which bodes very well for our heir to the throne.
Charlotte, do you think that this is the kind of thing that Harry and Meghan would pay any attention to or care about, or would it be quite wounding, do you think? I mean, there's obviously, potentially it could sort of foresee problems for their commercial ventures, couldn't it?
Yeah, so I think the fact that they have a lot of notoriety and a huge amount of fame, they probably think is quite good for getting these deals with, say, Netflix, or if she wants to sell jam or make any other products. But actually, what a poll does, which they might actually worry about, is show that although they're very, very well known, that people don't actually like them. So if I was, I don't know, making her jam, the company like Netflix selling her jam, I'd worry that the fame doesn't translate to actual sales of their goods. So I guess that's the one bit of noise, as they call it, they'd pay attention to, might be a poll. But the rest of the negative publicity about themselves, they say they don't listen to or read, and they're not worried about. But this one they might do because it has a financial worry attached to it.
Well, we should say that this is a poll of entirely people in Britain.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I just don't think Meghan cares about Britain at all anymore. I don't think she could care less how popular she is. I mean, I think it's evident from what Harry said in this interview that she's got no plans to come back, and that's perhaps why she's befriending someone like Nicola Peltz, who again finds herself at odds with British popular characters.
It's a good point about it. In another twist, an online user claimed to have burned themselves using Meghan's bath salts recipe from her Netflix show, threatening to sue the Duchess for $10 million. Here we have Richard and Charlotte debating the credibility of this claim.
Oh God, this was one that hit the headlines because it was someone who had followed a recipe in Meghan's Netflix series. You might remember that part of her sort of hospitality and entertaining was about making guests feel really welcome when they stay at her home. And one way she would do it was provide a recipe for sort of bath salts to have a lovely bath. Well, someone followed her recipe. I'm not sure how accurately they followed it. But anyway, it resulted in some terrible burns. They were very injured, and they're now suing Meghan, apparently, for this recipe. I mean, to be fair...
How do you get burns from a bath scrub recipe?
I don't know. I'm sure it's being made up, to be honest.
Really?
I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but we should make clear it's not a product being made by Meghan.
No.
It was basically her saying, "This is how I like to, create a nice bath." So, but anyway, it was just more negative publicity.
Do you think it's a chancer though, trying to sort of make some money from suing Meghan over some bath salts?
I don't know.
We'll certainly watch that case with interest.
Yeah. Even though Meghan's raspberry spread sold out, Meghan announced she would not be restocking the As Ever products as she reassesses her brand. Richard had something to say.
It's the ongoing, rather chaotic saga, I have to say, about the launch of her lifestyle business. Was American Riviera Orchard.
Yes.
Now it's As Ever.
Yes.
This week she
not with love after the TV show, just to give all the three names.
Yeah. So this week she gave an interview, which was really rather odd. She was, okay, let's put this in context. So people might remember that she launched her website, As Ever, with products to buy. It was mainly things like jams and sprinkles of flowers to put on food. Very expensive. Anyway, it sold out almost immediately. And if you go to the website now, it's got all these signs, sold out, sold out. Anyway, people are wondering, when's she going to restock this stuff? She must have more jam, tucked away.
Well, it takes a while to make.
But it's been weeks and weeks and no more jam. Anyway, so she's given an interview to suggest there may be no more jam. She said that sort of that was it, and they're reassessing everything. And it may be not till next year, they said the second quarter, so it could be like 10 months before there are any new products. And they might not be jams or anything, they might be completely new things, such as sort of in the hospitality sphere, she was saying. I think like kind of tableware, cutlery, this type of thing. But it's just sort of added to the air of chaos and mess which has surrounded this brand.
It just feels like throwing a lot of things at a wall and seeing what sticks, doesn't it? It's odd.
Well, I think that's almost what she's admitted, because she sort of said, we want to see what's popular, but it's a very unusual way to launch a business, because anyone else, you would think, what's the point of this business? What are we going to sell? And then you'd have enough of it, wouldn't you? You wouldn't just have a few things and then see if they sell or not.
What do you both think is the future for As Ever? Because it feels like this is a massive loss in momentum.
Yeah, I agree, and I also agree with Richard. It seems that she's sort of dipping her toe in the water and seeing what works and what doesn't work. But plainly, whatever one's criticisms of Meghan, and they're manifold, the fact is the jam, for example, proved extremely popular, and yet she didn't produce enough of it. There was a huge hullabaloo around it, but you can't get it. So it's a bit like that old wartime phrase, jam tomorrow but never jam today. And she's in a jam, let's face it, over it, quite frankly. I don't know, I think you're right. I think she is throwing out ideas, seeing what sticks, what gets the most, gets some momentum behind it.
Yeah, I suppose in one sense it's entrepreneurially brave, it's courageous to be honest about it.
I don't know, we've seen this a lot with Meghan, sort of, and Harry before, where they kind of, certainly in Meghan's case, she's very keen to get the publicity, very keen to announce things.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't really happen. So initially when she launched her website or the Instagram page for American Riviera Orchard, it was a whole year before anything happened. And it's been interesting. I have to say, I think the number of followers for her Instagram page has been dipping a bit. And it's just, it seems like she's sort of keen for the attention, keen for the publicity, but doesn't really have a plan for how to make it work.
And now we know that she sets herself the admin task every night of emailing her children. I mean, that takes a lot of time as well, doesn't it?
Hello.
It's just crazy. Now, the Daily Mail's Alison Boshoff, your colleague, revealed on Saturday that a third series of With Love with Meghan will, quote unquote, almost certainly be commissioned. Apparently the boss of Netflix is a big fan. So a question to you both, will you be tuning in?
Oh, please. The things I've had to endure for this programme.
And you will endure more.
No, it was a really interesting piece by Alison Boshoff, because essentially people will remember that when Harry and Meghan signed their deal with Netflix, it was big. There were estimates of sort of $75 million, $100 million, and it was for production. They were going to be making lots of different programmes. Well, what Alison was reporting is that any future deal will be much smaller. So it will be a sort of case-by-case basis. So yes, we'll contract you for another series of this, and probably Harry won't be involved so much.
I have to correct myself. I think I said With Love from Meghan, or it's With Love Meghan, isn't it? What about you, Richard Kay?
I find it the television equivalent of waterboarding. Please make it stop. I'll tell you anything you want. I suppose out of professional curiosity, I will have to watch it. I sort of forced my way through the first series. I mean, the thing that Netflix have hooked onto is, of course, that it's a win-win for them, because all the negative publicity surrounding the first series drove viewers' numbers, and they're going to cash in on that.
And I have to admit, one of my guilty pleasures is all the parodies that turn up on Instagram. I mean, they're just joyous.
We should know, though, I mean, it's a real transformation. I mean, the whole, what Harry and Meghan had wanted was to be producers. They were going to be a sort of, powerful production company making different things. But that, it hasn't really happened. And we've seen with Harry's programmes, about Polo and Invictus, that it hasn't made much of a splash.
Just when things started to quieten down, Meghan posted an extraordinary video of her twerking in the maternity ward with Prince Harry. Watch Rebecca's jaw drop in reaction to the clip, and listen to Richard's rant that she posted such a private moment on the Instagram account she used it to promote her business.
Baby mama, this shot's been pregnant for way too long. I tell the DJ, turn it off.
If she your baby mama, she gon' do that baby mama.
Work.
She gon' put it on you. She gon' do that baby mama. Drop it down.
This must, I mean, look, you're in the know, you're always plumbed in, but did this come as a surprise to you?
Absolutely. And as you know, Luke, I don't always like to make Harry and Meghan the focus of my discussions, but there is no way now of getting out of it this week. It was extraordinary. So I'd written a story yesterday afternoon about Lilibet's birthday, just because Meghan had posted in the morning, UK time, two quite sweet black and white photographs of her and Lilibet to mark her 4th birthday. Strangely, 8 hours later, she then posted 2 of her husband. And I did wonder at the time whether that was prompted by people remarking online that the pictures were of her and not of Harry. But, live and let live. And then an hour later, I got an email from my news desk saying, look, you just might want to change the intro of your story, because if you've seen the video of, there's no other way of putting it, of Meghan twerking while pregnant. And I think I just sent an email back going, what? With like about 4 question marks, because I'd only just looked at her Instagram about an hour earlier just to make sure I'd got the facts correct for my story. Refreshed it, and lo and behold, it's exactly what my news desk said. I mean, there was genuinely, it's not often I say my jaw hit the floor, but it did in this case. I mean, I've never seen a video like it.
I assumed it was sort of artificial intelligence generated, because there's been so many of those entertaining videos recently. I thought it was one of those. I couldn't believe it was them, but it is.
From non-working royal to twerking royal, then.
Yeah.
Very good, Luke.
She's certainly gone. But Richard, I mean, look, we always want to try and be fair on this programme. We want to try and present a balance. And, there'll be some people who watched that video and thought, oh, it's nice. They wanted to show something fun. They, wanted to present a different side to them. And indeed, we know that this is becoming a bit of a trend on social media. What was your opinion?
Yeah, so my teenage daughter this morning, when she watched it, she said, that's no big deal. All the pregnant women were doing it back at that time around 2020, 21. It was a popular song video that went viral of Baby Mama, and people were dancing. So that was the context. And in fact, Harry actually mentions it in his memoirs, Spare, that they kind of danced in the maternity room. But it's just so unusual, isn't it? It's not what you expect to see from members of the royal family.
It's something that pops up online. It pops up in the comments sometimes in Palace Confidential. I know that. There's always been conspiracy theories around Meghan's pregnancies and children. We're not going to dwell too much on those, but do you think it will quell those conspiracy theorists by releasing videos like this?
I do seriously wonder if Meghan has wanted to address the conspiracy theories, because look what's happened recently. She published that mood board on Instagram where she had a picture of her. She wasn't wearing many clothes at all, showing off her huge baby bump, and that was with Archie, I think, the bump, wasn't it? Yeah. And then, soon after, we've seen this video as well. And so that I think that is possibly addressing those conspiracy theories. But I mean, let's look at why this was released. I mean, this is why I find this so wrong in many ways. Not because, look, it's a laugh. We've all done funny videos. My goodness, if you look through my phone, you can probably find all sorts.
We look forward to that afterwards. Yeah, absolutely.
But the point is, she has published it. Meghan has broadcast this to mark the 4th birthday of her daughter. But then, it's not about her daughter, it's just all about her. And where has she broadcast it? It's on the Instagram page that she created to promote her business. It's all commercial, it's all about making money. And she really is trying to, commercialise those children.
Rebecca, the privacy issue is interesting, isn't it? It is I think, hard to square, because when we've been told so much about how they want the media to respect their privacy and how they want to live their lives in private, and then videos like this come, it's a hard one to square, I think, for a viewer sometimes.
Yes, and I think a lot of people will see this being very hypocritical. I have to say, after my shock, the kind of whole South Park worldwide privacy sprung to mind as well, because of, Meghan has always said one of the reasons why she didn't like being a member of the royal family is because she felt she was expected to deliver up pictures of her children or them in kind of private family time regularly. I would argue, actually, that's not the case. But, it's the reason why they didn't, for example, take part in official photo calls straight after the birth of Archie in the UK and when they were leaving the hospital, as many, royal couples have done in the past. Now, she says, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it on my own terms. So I'm sure she will argue that's what I'm doing. But of course, and again, I try to be even-handed. I'm a reporter, not a columnist. So I try to report the news and let people make up their own mind. But speaking as an individual, you know, that is such a uniquely private moment between you and your partner. And I can understand them wanting to do a fun video around it. The baby was late, you know, you do all sorts of things when that happens. You eating hot curries, going out for a walk, you know. But to then share that with, you know, 3 million followers on Instagram and to know that that is going to be spread around the world, I simply cannot comprehend the thinking of that. Well, I can't understand why you do that.
Spare a thought for Meghan's father. I mean, remember that Meghan took legal action because Thomas Markle dared to make public a letter which he'd received from his daughter. So on the one hand, we've got her, you know, obsessed with privacy and refusing even to disclose the names of the godparents of Prince Archie, and then releasing intimate videos like this on the day that her daughter was born. I don't know, to me it smacks of hypocrisy.
I also felt, sorry to interrupt Lou, but I also felt he's Richard's favourite hobby horse for the whole issue of councillors of state and things like that. When you see Harry kind of shimmying across the video like this, you know, I thought, oh my God, you're a Prince of the United Kingdom, you're fifth in line to the throne, you're still a councillor of state who could be called, potentially, to stand in for your father should he ever become incapacitated. And all people are going to remember is you going like that while your wife's twerking in the background. I don't want to be po-faced. Like Richard said, we've all got videos of us at 2 a.m. in some friend's kitchen having had far too much to drink, dancing around.
Again, I want to see those later, Rebecca, please.
But, you know, and I'll be honest, in my case, probably more than once. But, you know, I would never post those on social media. And I'm not even a public figure. I'm not anybody interesting. I can't imagine the mentality that would make someone want to do that.
We'll wrap this particular conversation up with a post that Richard made yesterday that went a little bit viral. Why don't you tell people what you said?
Oh no, I just said, look, if the Princess of Wales ever, you know, posts a video like this, I'm giving up the royal commentary altogether. But I do think, you know, what's important for the royal family is dignity. I think you do have to maintain some dignity and decorum. I mean, yes, that might sound a bit stuffy or whatever, but you know, what are the royals for? You know, originally they were there to sort of lead us into battle. They're there to represent us. But you expect some dignity. It would be the same for an American president or something. So, you know, I don't want to see videos of Donald Trump twerking in the same way I don't want to see, you know, members of the royal family. And this is not a first either. You might remember we've seen Meghan squatting like on Ellen DeGeneres programme when she was on there. That was pretty undignified. What else? We've seen, you know, Harry joking around with James Corden. We've seen, you know, Meghan's like exaggerated curtsy on their Netflix series. I mean, it's just all these things that stick in the mind and you think, And
yet, you know, people like Queen Elizabeth were able to do things that were amusing and funny and slightly out of her usual box when she was alive. Obviously the James Bond skit we had. She did that funny thing with Harry to publicise Invictus Games, the whole boom comment. But they were done in a dignified way, and they were chosen very carefully and in a very, very controlled manner and not done very often either as well. So when she did them, they had much more effect.
Yeah, there's nothing undignified about dancing, let's be clear, you know, it's great, dance. But it
you
is
are
kind
definitely showing us those videos later, Richard.
And there are some great videos or photographs of King Charles dancing as well sometimes.
Oh, he's a great dancer.
Yeah. I think we did a montage once.
We have done a montage of him dancing. We all, of course, remember the late Princess Diana dancing with John Travolta. There's lots of great scenes of the royals dancing over the years. That's nothing new.
No, but it's about the context, isn't it? Yeah. That's the key thing.
In another Instagram video, Meghan announces that the latest drop of her extended range of As Ever products has sold out. Here, Richard argues that despite her constant pleas for privacy, Meghan keeps featuring her daughter Lilibet in videos. He also expresses his doubts that her products ever sold out.
This is becoming a bit of a thing. So she's
she's on Instagram. She's got to put those products.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But she sort of, you know, puts up a new range of jam or whatever, and then it sells out because it's not very big. And then she records a video saying,
so cynical,
isn't he? Just
then she records a video saying, "Oh, I'm so grateful, thank you." And this one again was featuring her daughter Lilibet. You know, I don't want to be rude, but you know, we're becoming so familiar with Lilibet's bag. You never see her face. I just think either sort of feature the children and have their faces, or just leave them out of your product launches. It just really grates with me.
Well, this did come after her team said that they've sold out of her products, but you obviously are a bit dubious about that.
I want the figures. I demand to see the figures. You know, how many have they sold? It's ridiculous, isn't it? They sell out. What if you got 5? You can say you sold out.
Well, I don't know. Do you?
Well, it's interesting because they gave some exclusive quotes about this to a magazine, I can't remember which one, and saying we actually had 3 times more products or something like that than we did on the first range. But then they still don't say but how many units they were actually trying to push in the first place. And I think that, as you rightly say, is the key figure. Is it that demand is outstripping production, or is it that it's just a very limited teaser all the time? No one knows.
And they've given very limited information about sort of where these products come from. You know, where's the fruit coming from for these jams?
It's not coming from Meghan's orchard, her orchard Riviera.
The original ones were.
Right.
The original jams that she sent to friends were actually from.
Gosh, I'm naive. I genuinely believe that that's where it was all coming from.
Well, and did you see the story on Mail Online this week about the? So they very cleverly spotted on her website, and how you would do this escapes me, I'm a complete Luddite, but there's metadata which shows where her tea's from. And so her tea is actually from a factory that's something like 500 miles away from California that produces a similar hibiscus tea but in a different shaped tea bag for 3 times less than Meghan is selling it for. And they put it to them and said, well, look, is this the same tea just in a different shaped bag? And apparently they refused to get back to them. So read into that what you will, people. Well,
it's all about marketing, and credit to Meghan, she's certainly putting a lot of effort into that marketing.
Wow, Richard, was that a compliment?
A barbed one.
Yeah. Despite Meghan's rosé selling out, one of the Daily Mail's star columnists, Jan Moyer, got her hands on a bottle and gave us her review. She also poured Richard and Charlotte a glass, and their reactions are not to be missed. Have a look.
So this just isn't any old rosé. This is the Duchess of Sussex rosé, which according to the blurb, she thoughtfully curated and thoughtfully crafted herself. Now, I don't imagine that she was like tramping the grapes up in the Napa Valley. What is astonishing to me is that the alcoholic content of this wine is 14.5%, which is incredibly high. I mean, in Scotland, we would call this wreck the hoose juice. I mean, it's very, very, very strong for a rosé. Most European rosés are only 12.5. And if you take something like Whispering Angel, which is not only the best-selling rosé in America, it's the best-selling rosé in the world, I think, and that's only 12.5%. So it's a very, very high alcoholic content. Price-wise, the Duchess is selling this for $30 a bottle, which is about £22, and you have to buy it in a pack of 3. You can't just buy one bottle, you've got to buy the pack of 3. So it's very expensive, and it's very high in alcohol. So let's give it a taste. Well, it looks like rosé. It smells like rosé. I want to be honest with you. It's a bit too sweet for me for a start. It's quite fruity. She says it's got notes of minerality in it. I don't get that. I get stone fruit. You know, it's a bit plummy. As I said, it's just not my favourite style of rosé. I mean, a lot of people do like it. I prefer the paler ones from the Mediterranean because that's the kind of person I am.
And a bottle has found its way here too for the panel to enjoy. We've also got a few of other Meghan's As Ever products. Richard, give it a go. Tell us what you think. Fruit, scent, flavour. Richard, what a face!
Sort of sweet at first, but with a bitter aftertaste.
Now, Richard, I don't know what you could be talking about.
Genuinely, it does have quite an unpleasant aftertaste.
Charlotte, it's quite strong, isn't it? It's 14.5%, which is quite a lot for a rosé.
Yes.
What could you see yourself drinking this on a picnic?
Well, do you know, I don't actually drink, so I will have one sip and be completely sloshed because I've got no tolerance left, and it's 14%. So I'm going to try some. Oh God, I've missed that.
14.5%.
Maybe I'll take up drinking again. It's been about 5 years. That is strong and fine. It's fine. I can't remember what your question was now.
I was going to say, could you see yourself drinking on a picnic? But if you don't drink, then, you know, generally...
No, I could see myself putting that on the table at a picnic. All my friends would refuse to drink it. But I think it makes an elegant addition to a table. You know, who doesn't love a glass of frosty cold rosé?
I think if it was sort of, you know, £5, you might think great, but I think it's about $30, isn't it, a bottle?
I think you have to buy 3. I think they only come in sets of 3. So
I would certainly be giving away the second 2 as a gift, I think.
Can I say my beef is with the bottle rather than the flavour? I don't think it's a very fancy bottle.
You know the etiquette
like,
on the front.
It's not very like stylishly designed in a beautiful sort of designery sort of way.
It's very.
So you're saying we should or shouldn't judge a bottle by its cover?
I judge the bottle by its cover. I think it needs an upgrade, a taller neck, and more elegant foil.
There you go.
Love is in the details.
Absolutely, you've heard it here first.
With Meghan and Harry's Netflix contract coming to an end, there were reports that Netflix bosses could not wait for the credits to roll and would not be renewing their £100 million deal with the Sussexes. Rebecca had this to say while Richard expressed concern for the couple's finances.
Let's stick with Harry and Meghan. There's a new report this week that suggests that when their Netflix deal comes to an end, that's it with the streaming giant. Rebecca, what do you make of this?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of these reports over the last year or so, and I feel like sometimes it varies from week to week. Some weeks you hear that the boss of Netflix thinks Meghan's a rock star and there's a great future. The next week you hear quite negative. This, however, I think has taken things up a slight notch because we've seen a flurry of reports all around the same thing.
It's the cold hard numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just saying, look, this has been a bit of a disappointment. There's going to be no massive ceremonial cutting of ties with them, but we're just going to let it peter out because it just hasn't really worked to anyone's favour. And because the reports are coming from well-sourced people in various different directions, and it's all variations on a theme, you've got to actually hand quite a great degree of credibility to them, I think.
I would say let's look at the facts rather than the speculation. And the facts here is Netflix released their list of the most watched programmes for the first 6 months of the year. Now,
why do they do that? Because inevitably people will concentrate on the ones that didn't do so well.
Well, I think they want to highlight how popular their programmes are. You know, it's a huge worldwide broadcaster. And Meghan's With Love Meghan, the lifestyle programme, I mean, my goodness, it's had so much attention, so much hype. But that didn't really reflect in the viewing figures. It failed to make even the top 350 programmes in that 6 months. I think it was like 353 or something like that. But let's be frank, that's very unimpressive. But even more unimpressive.
Well, when you factor in her reach and how much attention it had, it's surprising.
It's definitely surprising. Yeah. But then even more unimpressive was Prince Harry's programme. They said to him, look, you've got the money, you make a sort of programme you want to make. So he made a programme about polo. And I remember watching it myself. Well, apparently it only gained, the whole series gained a total of 500,000 views. Well, to put that in perspective, you know, each episode of Palace Confidential sometimes gets 500,000.
Yeah,
so
where's our Netflix deal, Ted? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we should ask for a sort of pay rise. But that really does put it in perspective. I mean, this is Prince Harry. This was a £100 million deal or something they signed. So I think what's clear is any new deal that they have, it won't be anything like that.
And Richard, your colleague Alison Boshoff wrote a piece about their finances, Harry and Meghan, and that would suggest that they're going to need to find some money from somewhere to afford this incredible Montecito lifestyle somehow.
I know you call me cynical, but I do think, again, it's related to these sort of efforts to sort of mend fences back in Britain. Because, you know, when you look at the money, the outgoings and everything, as Alison Boshoff did, it really is astonishing. It's sort of thing to sort of send a shiver down your spine, because they've got such huge outgoings. And you can see why Prince Harry was so angry and bitter about security, because it costs so much. So they need millions, and they had those millions from Spotify, from Netflix. Spotify's gone, and Netflix, from all accounts, is drying up too. So, I would have thought they're quite nervous.
Do you think? Yeah, it sounds like they might even be panicking.
Well, we know that Meghan's made efforts to make money from the commerce stuff, but again, that's linked to Netflix. Netflix is involved in that, and it's been very small scale from what we've seen so far. So you wouldn't have thought that would make money.
I know that I can't possibly ever understand the lifestyles of the rich and famous, but why do they need to make that much money? Why can't they have an 8-bedroom house instead of a 16-bedroom? Do you know what I mean? Like, why? Is that just me? Am I just being very naive?
No, and I think this is why this is all such a salutary lesson, because I do think when they left the royal family and they had all of these offers coming in, because of course commercial organisations were absolutely enthralled with the idea that a member of arguably one of the most famous families in the world, who always have tried to scrupulously protect their privacy, suddenly going out and being there as a commercial property. That's never happened before. So obviously all of these streaming giants and podcast companies were desperate to get their hands on them, and I do think Harry and Meghan were almost drunk on the power of being able to do that. And then I think the trouble is that they have overstretched themselves by buying this great big mansion and estate and the lifestyle that comes with it on the basis of the promise of what they're being offered rather than the reality. I'm afraid, you're talking to someone very small time who only believes in spending what they earn. Over the years I could have got a mortgage for a bigger house, but we didn't, because we wanted to be able to have a holiday each year. Most people will base their lifestyles on that. Harry and Meghan haven't done that, and it's a very salutary lesson. But as Richard says, I'm not sure how they see a way out of this. Harry's got a couple of paying gigs now. He's still the Chief Impact Officer, a title of which I've never still quite worked out what that means, of the kind of therapy company Better Up. He's got his travel firm, but those are not things that will afford and pay for the kind of lifestyle that they've become used to. And you have to ask yourself, does that mean there could be another book in the offing? Or are they literally betting everything on the As Ever brand and the rosé and the jams and the teas, affording that lifestyle in the future? That's actually a big, big risk.
Stressful.
Remember, if they stayed in the royal family, what they would have had. So you would have had all that security paid for by taxpayers. They would have had a home in Scotland, a home in London, a country home. All that would have come with their position. So they've chosen to give that up. And I think it might be slowly dawning on Harry and Meghan what they have lost.
To renew or not to renew, that was the question, and it was finally answered when Netflix revealed they had signed Harry and Meghan on with a first look deal. But what does that even mean? Well, it means there was no money up front, no obligation to produce anything the Sussexes come up with, and Netflix get to see all of their ideas up front. I asked Rebecca if this was a slap in the face for the Sussexes, and this is what she had to say. So, Rebecca, that's a little bit of a shine off the original deal, isn't it?
Depends who you talk to, because of course, like everything with the Sussexes, it's very divisive. And those that are their great supporters say this is a triumph. All of these media personalities were predicting that their deal was dead in the water, was going to be allowed to expire. We've got this renewed commitment from Netflix, this is a triumph. Those that do not like Harry and Meghan and are critics of them say, look, this is a massive downgrade from what they had before. It's a loosening of the ties from Netflix. How on earth can anyone claim this is a success story? And I think, as always, and it's my favourite phrase with the Sussexes, you pays your money, you takes your choice. With them, I have to say, I would like to give a shout out to our chief showbiz writer, Alison Boshoff, who actually wrote that this was going to happen a month ago. She's got very, very good contacts in the showbiz industry. And she said exactly that. It would be one of these first look deals. There would be a few kind of more forthcoming programmes. There would be a holiday special from Meghan on her With Love Meghan programme. And she got everything right. So I asked Alison what she thought. And she's somewhere in the middle of this. She said, yes, it's definitely not as good a deal as they had. That said, it's pretty par for the course given Netflix business model at the moment, that, you know, 5 years ago they were throwing around these big money deals like confetti. Harry and Meghan were clearly a great property to have, not necessarily because of the programming they were going to deliver, but because of what they could get out of them in terms of their experiences with the royal family, which of course, as we know, is the only success story they've had in this programming. And she said what they've been given now is on par with people like the Obamas and their higher ground productions. They've all been given these kind of similar downgraded deals.
I'm sure people would point out the Meghan and Harry cheerleaders that With Love has been seen as a success of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, people.
I mean, not the blockbuster that tell-all documentary was.
No, nothing would ever touch the size of that.
Yeah.
So
and
I mean,
season 2, you know. So yeah.
And Alison explained to me that although people were making a point that it didn't even break into the top 300 of Netflix show, Netflix is such a kind of global success story that even being 340 or whatever it was is the kind of numbers that terrestrial TV would give their eye teeth for. But I do think it means that they are not on such solid ground in the future. And I think this second series of With Love Meghan is going to be the absolute clincher.
Yeah.
Will people stay with it? Because there were people like me and Richard who unfortunately had to watch it, the first series, multiple times for journalistic purposes. I imagine you've got a lot of people dipping in saying, well, you know, she's an interesting character.
You weren't moved to make a fruit platter?
No, funny enough, there have been no sprinkles on my children's
no floral
breakfast
sprinkles
or packed lunches.
What about you, Richard?
Well, unfortunately, we've been given the date for the broadcast of the second series now, so that date now looms large
When is it?
in my diary. It's in a couple of weeks' time, so we
Okay.
don't have to wait long to find out what new creations we can make in our own kitchens.
Exciting. So, but what do you think? Is this good news or bad news for Harry and Meghan, this Netflix deal?
Look, let's be honest here. Let's deal with the facts. I mean, Harry himself, in his interview with Oprah Winfrey, talked about how he needed money. He needed it quickly because security and money had been cut off from his father. So he said, we signed these deals with Spotify and Netflix, clearly implying that they were worth a fortune, which we know that they were. Well, this is none of the kind. From everything I've heard and everything Alison Boshoff has reported, it is just a first look deal. So the only money they will receive is if the programmes are commissioned. Now, I know that their spokesmen are playing this down and saying, oh, it's all good. And we know a couple of things. We know that there's going to be a Christmas special, or holiday special as they call it, of With Love Meghan. And there's also going to be a documentary about children in Uganda, which is a small thing. But that's all we know so far. And I think by all accounts, it is a big downgrade. And it remains to be seen, you know, how much money they make from it.
So a bit of a slap in the face, really.
It's definitely a slap in the face. I mean, what Harry would want would be another deal that he could, you know, boast to Oprah Winfrey about how much it's worth. But it's clear that that's not coming. I mean, look, if they're hard up, or if they find they're not selling enough jars of jam as they'd like,
Oh, they keep selling out. They're all right. Yeah.
they could make another programme like Harry and Meghan, something personal, you know, something about Princess Diana or anything about the royal family, and I'm sure Netflix would snap that up.
But I guess if we are in this era where he wants more conciliation with the family, that's tricky for him to navigate.
But I think if he wants to make another series about Invictus, say, or about you know, his favourite sport, polo, I think you might find they'll say thanks, but no thanks.
And then some would say the dreaded day came, the premiere of With Love Meghan Series 2. Here's what our Rebecca made of it.
So, full disclosure, I am actually officially on holiday at the moment.
This is what a soldier she is. She's here for you.
Dipped in and out, so I haven't watched every episode from start to finish, but I think I've seen all I need to see.
Okay.
And it is more of the same, unsurprisingly, because it was actually filmed at the same time as the first series. They just decided to make 2 series out of it. I assume because it was the easier way to do it and more cost effective. And, you know, it does seem to me like they've given it a little tweak since the first one, maybe taking in to account some of the criticisms. You know, we don't see any pretzels transferred from one plastic bag to another. But do not start me on that pastry, Jo.
Why?
I mean, just...
That was like the least offensive thing to me.
I had steam coming out my ear. I think it was just this whole idea of, she said, I am going to reinvent baking. So it's...
Even though she doesn't also like baking.
Yes, exactly. So it's less serious and more playful. And I've got this revolutionary thing in my freezer. Not in my freezer, that's not in my house.
In the pretend freezer. Yeah.
And it's called puff pastry. And I was like, does not every person have frozen puff pastry in their house? It was like, this is not reinventing the wheel, love. It just, I'll be honest, it just doesn't appeal to me as a viewer. So I'm probably the wrong target audience for this. I do not have time to kind of wrap friends' presents in, spare pieces of fabric or make, tie-dye scarves or potato print children's apron.
Well, some people are just more dedicated to elevating their everyday life, Rebecca.
Elevating, that's another word, don't mention it, Jo.
You're not the only one, because, we have seen a lot more scathing reviews as per Series 1, haven't we?
I think the reviews have been slightly less scathing than the first one, but I think that's because the shock value has slightly worn off, and there's just a lot of eye rolling that, I've seen her described as the kind of Marie Antoinette of Montecito, and it does have a flavour of it, but I think it was even something that popped up on my feed this morning from the Hollywood Reporter, and I think that's the kind of industry publication that they will want to curry favour with. They don't really care about us in the UK and what we have to say about it, but they do care about publications like that. And effectively the review says, I just don't know why they bothered with the second series.
It's funny, isn't it?
That will be very, very disappointing to them.
I think the people I've spoken to who do like it just find it inoffensive and quite relaxing is the word that I keep hearing. But
I can see that. I mean, it's the kind of thing you could have on in the background while you're doing something. But is that really worth a multi-million-dollar deal? I'm not sure it is.
I really want a McDonald's apple pie now, though, I have to tell you. But no sign of Harry here. We did sort of get a few glimpses in the first series, didn't we? But we did get a couple of personal insights into their relationship, i.e. who said I love you first. It's quite personal, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, we might not have seen Harry, apart from I think he flashes up in certainly one of the bits I've seen in a photograph of their, first kind of big date in Botswana. But we hear a lot about him. For someone who's, conspicuous by his absence, she kind of shoehorns him into every kind of flower-sprinkled mention that she can. Him and the children, I have to say, and it's that constant reminder of who she's married to. Yes, there are some sweet anecdotes, but said in a kind of very self-consciously, self-deprecating way, that he was the first person to say, I love you, and she kind of rolls her eyes and goes, of course he was. And the bit that slightly jarred with me is this kind of lesson she does about packing a bag. Stop the press, you put the heaviest things like shoes in the bottom. Thankfully, that's something I never knew about. But she packs a baseball cap and says, I like to go casual. And she said, oh, look, the baseball cap I happen to have in my hand is the one I had made for my husband and his friends to celebrate his 40th birthday. And it says PH 40 on it. Like, again, the constant reminder of his royal role.
Yeah.
If you were doing something for your partner, you wouldn't put PH Prince Harry on it, you just put Harry or Has or H, as we know she calls him. It's little things like that I find quite jarring, I have to say.
And what role, if any, have the children got in this series?
Well, again, the mentions of him are many. Now, actually, as a parent, I understand that. Your kids are a huge part of your life, and I often find myself dropping them into conversations with friends or colleagues. But it does happen a lot in this, that her children are the kindest, sweetest ever. I mean, we all think our kids are great, but would I describe them as the kindest, sweetest in the world? I'm not sure I always would.
Maybe when they were that little, but then of course they become teenagers.
Exactly, and a lot of, at one point she's making aprons for them, and she makes one for each of the children, for Archie and Lilibet. But there are a lot of references to them in it, and what they eat and what they like and what they don't like.
Here's an interesting thing though. Meghan also revealed what she missed most about the UK. I wouldn't have thought there was anything. Was it our tropical weather?
Well, I've just been in North Wales for a few days and the weather was glorious. So, well done, Wales.
Yeah.
No, and actually this was a bit of a surprise, the revelation that she did have some fond memories of the UK, but that was British radio stations, particularly Magic FM, which is... it was described in the programme as a granny station. It's definitely kind of very soft rock, middle of the road.
They like an 80s moment.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad about that.
No, I have to say, and it's very soft and power ballads and things like that. Not my cup of tea. So that I have to say was a surprising revelation.
Indeed. What a ride. As you can see, Palace Confidential has covered all of Meghan's business ventures, from the announcement of the As Ever brand all the way to its apparent flop, and the many controversies in between. A reminder to like and subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel and sign up to our Palace Confidential newsletter via the QR code on your screen now. We look forward to seeing you next time on Palace Confidential. I do wonder what Meghan will get up to next, don't you?